Chapter 38:43. While these people were fighting among themselves, Lin Feng quietly came to the gourd of creation and successfully took it away. "Brat, you're courting death." Lady Whitesnake's eyes turned cold when she saw Lin Feng. Previously, when she was chasing after Lin Feng, she was tricked by Lin Feng and suffered a Dao injury. Even though she was a great Emperor-level powerhouse and had ways to heal her Dao injury, she still needed time to heal her Dao injury. Lady Whitesnake naturally hated Lin Feng to the core. However, who would have thought that this guy would appear at this time? Moreover, this hateful guy even took away the gourd of creation. Lady Whitesnake slammed her palm toward Lin Feng. "Blow you up." Lin Feng waved his hand, and hundreds of jade talismans flew out. Boom! Those jade talismans exploded, and the void was shattered. Lady Whitesnake was sent flying. She already had a Dao injury. She could not even use 10% of her cultivation. Now, she was hit by such a powerful energy. The Dao injury in her body flared up. Puffed. Lady Whitesnake spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face turned as pale as paper. Lin Feng took advantage of this opportunity to travel through the void and escape. The hatred has been formed. Lady Whitesnake must die. "You go after that, brat. I'll kill Lady Whitesnake," Emperor White Eagle said in a deep voice. He was the king of the Magic Beast Mountain Range. The Bloodbird Overlord was personally groomed by the White Eagle Overlord. Therefore, Emperor Bloodbird naturally obeyed Emperor White Eagle's orders. Of course, Emperor Bloodbird also knew that even though Lady Whitesnake had suffered a Dao injury, it was still very terrifying. With his cultivation, it was very difficult for him to fight against Lady Whitesnake. "I'll go after that brat right now," Emperor Bloodbird said, and then quickly chased after Lin Feng. "Lady Whitesnake, your life. I'll take it today." Emperor White Eagle sneered. Then he quickly charged towards Queen Whitesnake. At this time, Lin Feng had already flown out of the abyss, and the Bloodbird Emperor quickly chased after him. "Brat, you can't run away. You are destined to die in my hands." The Bloodbird Sovereign Lord's blood-red eyes stared at Lin Feng, revealing an incomparably cold killing intent. Lin Feng was transformed from a bloodbird, and bloodbirds were extremely fast. Therefore, even though Lin Feng was also known for his speed, Lin Feng was still a bloodbird. However, it wasn't easy to shake off the Bloodbird Overlord. The distance between the two sides was constantly shortening. Lin Feng began to speed up, but in the end, the Bloodbird Emperor caught up. "Blood Claw destroys the world." The Bloodbird Emperor laughed sinisterly and grabbed at Lin Feng. His right hand turned into a huge claw. That claw was incomparably sharp, and it tore through the void. Lin Feng hurriedly pulled out his ruler's armor. At the same time, he used the Golden Dwarf's power. His battle prowess had greatly increased. Then, a supreme reincarnation fist was thrown at the Bloodbird Overlord. Bang! The two sides fiercely collided, and Lin Feng was sent flying. An Emperor-Lord level powerhouse was indeed terrifying. The battle prowess displayed by the Bloodbird Emperor shocked Lin Feng. After the Bloodbird Emperor sent Lin Feng flying, he flew towards Lin Feng like lightning, his sharp claws grabbing at Lin Feng. Dangerous moment. The three-headed viper flew out from Lin Feng's time and space. The three-headed viper's body turned into a black light like a peerless war spear. It directly stabbed towards the Bloodbird Emperor. This was the three-headed viper's innate ability, and it was extremely powerful. Lin Feng had experienced this move of the three-headed viper before. The Bloodbird Emperor was incomparably tyrannical, but the Bloodbird Emperor was also made of flesh and blood. Of course, he didn't dare to use his body to resist the three-headed viper's attack. So, the Blood-Bird Emperor's claw that was originally aimed at Lin Feng changed to the black light formed by the three-headed viper. Bang! The black light formed by the three-headed viper was sent flying by the Blood-Bird Emperor. The three-headed viper was beaten back to its original form, and a large number of scales fell off. The three-headed viper, its entire body was dripping with blood. Slash! At this moment, a blade of domination flew out from Lin Feng's dantian. He activated the Sovereign Emperor blood. He summoned the blade of domination that was condensed when the Sovereign Emperor blood was deeply awakened. The Blood-Bird Emperor had just slapped the three-headed viper away. Therefore, it was very difficult for him to resist Lin Feng's attack with all his strength. Lin Feng's choice of attack timing could be said to be perfect. However, the Blood-Bird Emperor was indeed too powerful. Even though he was given an extremely short time to react, the Blood-Bird Emperor still responded. Dense runes appeared on the surface of his body. When the blade of domination slashed over, it was actually blocked by those runes. But that powerful force, it still sent the Blood-Bird Emperor flying. However, the Blood-Bird Emperor didn't suffer any serious injuries, which made Lin Feng extremely depressed. "Little bastard, I'm going to tear you into pieces." The Blood-Bird Emperor roared, and the magic power in his body began to circulate. Waves of destructive aura surged out from the Blood-Bird Emperor's body. Just now, the Blood-Bird Emperor clearly didn't use his strongest battle strength to fight Lin Feng. Lin Feng estimated that the Blood-Bird Emperor had only used 20 to 30% of his battle strength. Now that the Blood-Bird Emperor was serious, the aura emitted from his body made Lin Feng's heart tremble. But at this moment, the Blood-Bird Emperor spat out a mouthful of blood. A large amount of black qi appeared on his face. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. What's wrong with this guy? It looked like he was poisoned. That's right. Previously, the Blood-Bird Emperor and the White Eagle Emperor ambushed Lady White Snake. Lady White Snake, on the other hand, was a scheming person. She had put on her armor with poisonous spikes beforehand. The armor pierced the Blood-Bird Emperor's hand, causing him to be poisoned. However, he had taken an antidote before. In addition, he used his profound magic power to suppress the poison in his body. Lin Feng originally thought that the poison in the Blood-Bird Emperor's body had been neutralized, but now it seemed that the poison in the Blood-Bird Emperor's body had not been neutralized. After the battle, the Blood-Bird Emperor had used up too much of his magic power, causing the poison in his body to erupt. Go. Without thinking, the Blood-Bird Emperor turned and flew away. Right now, the poison in his body was acting up. Finding a place to neutralize the poison was the most important thing. How could he have the energy to fight Lin Feng? Seeing the Blood-Bird Emperor running away, Lin Feng was stunned. Then he sneered. The Blood-Bird Emperor. The current situation was extremely bad, because the poison would definitely cause his cultivation to plummet. It was a good opportunity to convert him. Thinking that he might be able to convert an emperor-level powerhouse, Lin Feng couldn't help but be excited. Lin Feng stepped on the 8-directional world and quickly chased after the Blood-Bird Emperor. Chapter 3844. Edifying an Emperor-Lord level expert was extremely attractive to Lin Feng. After all, it was an Emperor-Lord level existence. It was on a completely different level. Cultivators of this level had already begun to touch the threshold of the immortal Tao. In the future, they had hopes of reaching the immortal realm. Normally, it was basically impossible to edify an Emperor-Lord level expert, but now Lin Feng saw hope. Lin Feng's speed was extremely fast as he chased after the Blood-Bird Emperor Lord. Although the Blood-Bird Emperor Lord was poisoned, his speed did not decrease by much. which made Lin Feng quite depressed. Lin Feng chased for a full 6 hours before the Bloodbird Emperor Lord's speed finally began to decrease significantly. It seemed that his body's condition was getting worse and worse. Lin Feng sneered, "Bloodbird Emperor Lord, don't run anymore. You can't escape, if you know what's good for you. Now, acknowledge me as your master. If you don't know how to appreciate favors, I will edify you. I will make you my slave." The Bloodbird Emperor Lord's expression was extremely gloomy. He, a dignified Emperor Lord level expert, was actually being chased by a young human cultivator. Although the Bloodbird Emperor Lord could not sense Lin Feng's specific realm. However, the Bloodbird Emperor Lord vaguely felt that Lin Feng's realm should not be particularly high. Therefore, being chased by Lin Feng was simply a great humiliation to the Bloodbird Emperor Lord. However, the Bloodbird Emperor Lord's current situation was indeed extremely bad. Therefore, although he was extremely sullen in his heart, he had no choice but to escape. The Bloodbird Emperor Lord originally thought that he could shake off Lin Feng, but he realized that he was wrong. Lin Feng's speed was simply too fast. In addition, the Bloodbird Emperor Lord was poisoned. He was actually unable to shake off Lin Feng, and the poison was constantly corroding his body. His body's condition would become worse and worse. If things continued like this, then the Bloodbird Emperor Lord knew that he would definitely be suppressed by Lin Feng. The Bloodbird Emperor Lord clenched his teeth. He decided to concentrate his strength and kill Lin Feng. As long as he killed Lin Feng, he would be able to completely get rid of the crisis before him. Thinking of this, the ancestral blood in the Bloodbird Emperor main body began to awaken. He wanted to transform. He transformed into the Venerable One. If he were to fight Lin Feng in his human form, his battle prowess would be suppressed. But if he were to fight Lin Feng with his true body, his battle prowess would be suppressed. Only then would he be able to unleash his strongest combat power. However, when the Bloodbird Emperor tried to transform, he felt a little powerless. Furthermore, the transformation required a large amount of Fa Li support. The Fa Li in the Bloodbird Emperor's body was constantly decreasing. The suppression of the poison would become weaker and weaker. Therefore, the poison in his body would spread more and more rapidly. 3 chances to attack. The Bloodbird Overlord estimated his situation. He felt it. After the transformation, probably, you have 3 chances. They could attack Lin Feng. If they could seize these 3 opportunities, then Lin Feng would die without a doubt. If they couldn't seize these 3 opportunities, he would be in great danger. Of course, the Bloodbird Emperor main body was still very confident in his battle prowess after the transformation. Therefore, the Bloodbird Emperor main body believed that after the transformation, even if he only had 3 chances, he should be able to kill Lin Feng. The Bloodbird Emperor main body channeled all his Fa Li to complete the transformation. His body turned into a huge bloodbird with a wingspan of more than 10 meters. The Bloodbird Emperor main body let out a sharp and ear-piercing cry. The huge wings spread out and shook the void. Suddenly, an endless storm gathered and swept towards Lin Feng. The terrifying storm instantly wrapped around Lin Feng's body. It wanted to tear Lin Feng's body apart. This was the Bloodbird Emperor main body's first attack. This method was very terrifying. The void shattered, but Lin Feng took out the Hurricane Pearl. The Bloodbird Emperor main body's attack didn't cause any damage to Lin Feng. Just as the Bloodbird Emperor main body was about to launch the second wave of attacks, the 3-headed viper had already rushed over. Poison, hail, lightning, all kinds of powerful attacks bombarded the Bloodbird Emperor main body. Lin Feng used the one qi into 3 pure ones. Then, the 9 layers of domineering magnetic field condensed and enveloped the Blood-Bird Emperor main body. Under the 9 layers of domineering magnetic field, the Blood-Bird Emperor main body's battle prowess was reduced by at least 30%. Moreover, the Blood-Bird Emperor main body's movements became extremely slow. Sky Drum, Hell King Bell, Stone Sword, Black Dragon Sword, 9 Devil Diagram, 5 Flames 7 Birds Fan. Lin Feng also took out various magic treasures. These powerful magic treasures all bombarded the Blood-Bird Emperor main body. At this time, the Blood-Bird Emperor main body realized that he had underestimated Lin Feng's battle prowess. Lin Feng's own strength, his own magic treasures, and the 3-headed viper's help. The battle prowess that erupted was extremely terrifying. The Blood-Bird Emperor main body's battle prowess had plummeted due to the poison. Although he had transformed into a blood bird, Lin Feng's 9 layers of domineering magnetic field had reduced his battle prowess by 30%. How was he going to fight Lin Feng? Facing the joint attack of Lin Feng and the 3-headed viper, the Blood-Bird Emperor main body knew that he had lost the upper hand. If he continued to fight with Lin Feng, he would not have a good ending. Therefore, the Blood-Bird Emperor main body spat out a ball of blood energy. The ball of blood energy exploded and blocked Lin Feng and the 3-headed viper's attack. The Blood-Bird Emperor main body transformed into his human form and fled into the distance. But at this time, a cold light flew over from the sky. Lin Feng held the Black Dragon Sword and executed the Man Descends from the Heavens, a sword that can slay immortals. It directly locked onto the Blood-Bird Emperor main body, making it impossible for him to escape. The Blood-Bird Emperor main body's expression changed greatly. He had no choice but to resist Lin Feng's attack. A light flashed in his hand, and a war spear appeared. The Blood-Bird Emperor main body held the war spear and stabbed towards the cold light flying over from the sky. Clang! The cold light formed by Lin Feng's Black Dragon Sword collided with the war spear in the Blood-Bird Emperor main body's hand. Suddenly, there was the sound of metal clashing. Although the war spear in the Blood-Bird Emperor main body's hand was powerful, it was bent under Lin Feng's terrifying attack. In the end, the war spear directly shattered. The cold light formed by Lin Feng's Black Dragon Sword instantly pierced through the Blood-Bird Emperor main body's chest. Ah! The Blood-Bird Emperor main body screamed. As an Emperor main body, his vitality was extremely strong. So, even though his chest was pierced, the Blood-Bird Emperor main body was still alive. Lin Feng transformed into his original body and directly used the Great Suppression Art to suppress the Blood-Bird Emperor main body. Even though the Blood-Bird Emperor main body was seriously injured, it was not easy to convert him. Therefore, he needed to suppress the Blood-Bird Emperor main body first. The Blood-Bird Emperor main body seemed to know that he could not escape the fate of being converted. His eyes flashed with madness. His body began to swell. This guy wanted to self-destruct. Not good. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng's face changed drastically. He quickly flew into the distance. Little bastard, let's die together. The Blood-Bird Emperor main body roared. In the next moment, with a loud bang, the Blood-Bird Emperor Lord's body exploded. Destructive energy surged out. Chapter 38:45. Swoosh! Lin Feng rushed out from the center of the explosion. Wah! He spat out a mouthful of blood. He felt as if all the bones in his body had been broken. If it wasn't for the ruler's armor's defense being strong enough. Just now, the Blood-Bird Emperor's self-destruction was enough to take his life. How could the self-destruction of an Emperor Lord be child's play? But, fortunately, Lin Feng survived. He hurriedly activated his immortal divine body, and his injuries quickly recovered. When the energy dissipated, the energy source and broken limbs left behind by the Blood-Bird Emperor's self-destruction were still floating between heaven and earth. Great Master, can I swallow the energy source and flesh left behind by the Blood-Bird Emperor? I feel that if I swallow these things, I might be able to break through to the Emperor Lord Realm. The three-headed viper said, "Oh, break through to the Emperor Lord Realm? Good, those things belong to you. Go and swallow them now." Lin Feng said, "Thank you, Great Master." The three-headed viper was overjoyed when he heard this and hurriedly flew over. He opened his bloody mouth and began to swallow the Blood-Bird Emperor's source and broken limbs. The Blood-Bird Emperor's source could increase one's cultivation and was extremely precious. The severed limbs contained an extremely powerful energy. The three-headed viper would probably store the energy in his body and use it when he broke through. Lin Feng didn't know if the three-headed viper could really break through to the Emperor Lord Realm. If it could, it would be a huge help to him. Of course, if it couldn't break through, it would probably be able to break through to the Emperor Lord Realm. It wouldn't be a waste of the Blood-Bird Emperor's source. Soon, the three-headed viper swallowed all the source and broken limbs. Then the three-headed viper said, "Great Master, give me 3 days. I can break through to the Emperor Lord Realm." "Good. Let's find a place for you to digest the things you swallowed," Lin Feng said as he flew to the head of the three-headed viper and sat down cross-legged. The three-headed viper soared into the sky and flew into the distance. The three-headed viper stopped in a valley to cultivate. Lin Feng also entered the valley, waiting for the final transformation of the three-headed viper. The advancement of many ferocious beasts is somewhat different from the advancement of cultivators. For example, cultivators often choose to break through to the quasi-emperor realm first, then settle down for a period of time before breaking through to the emperor realm. However, ferocious beasts do not do this. Many ferocious beasts choose to break through to the emperor realm directly. They prefer to wait until after the breakthrough to devour a large number of other creatures to increase their battle strength. The demon lord said. Lin Feng couldn't help but nod. The three-headed viper was just like that. 3 days later, lightning flashed in the sky. He really attracted the thunder tribulation. Lin Feng was shocked. The three-headed viper was really going to undergo the Emperor Lord tribulation. But would it succeed? If he failed to transcend the tribulation, he was afraid that he would die. Lin Feng couldn't help the three-headed viper right now, so he could only rely on himself. Hum, hum, hum. The three-headed viper let out 3 roars that sounded like a dragon, yet not a dragon. Then it charged towards the sky. That huge body stretched out in the sky. The three-headed viper seemed to have transformed into an immortal dragon god. A deep roar resounded through the sky, shaking the void. The first thunder tribulation descended. It was as thick as a mountain, as if it could destroy the world. Facing the might of the thunder tribulation, the three-headed viper was fearless. It directly soared into the sky and resisted the thunder tribulation. Lin Feng said, "I wonder if the three-headed viper can resist the danger of the thunder tribulation?" The demon lord said, "The three-headed viper is a primordial beast. Its bloodline is powerful. Moreover, this three-headed viper has cultivated so many divine abilities. Its wisdom is profound, and it might have grasped many powerful techniques that we don't know about. Therefore, I don't find it strange that it can successfully transcend the tribulation." Hearing that, Lin Feng nodded. One after another, the thunder tribulation began to descend, bombarding the three-headed viper's body. Every thunder tribulation was peerlessly terrifying. However, The three-headed viper's accumulation was very powerful. In addition, the three-headed viper had devoured the origin of an emperor-level powerhouse not long ago. These were the three-headed viper's capital for its breakthrough. As for the three-headed viper, indeed, it did not disappoint Lin Feng. The powerful thunder tribulation was blocked by the three-headed viper. Although the thunder tribulation later on caused considerable damage to the three-headed viper, the damage was not fatal. Finally, the three-headed viper withstood the thunder tribulation and successfully broke through to the emperor level. After the breakthrough, the three-headed viper's aura had obviously increased by many times. Lin Feng could not help but become extremely excited. The three-headed viper had broken through to the emperor level. Lin Feng now had an emperor level mount. If this news were to be spread, it would probably cause a huge uproar. One must know there were so many powerful forces in the myriad races. If one did not count their foundations, now, the myriad races did not have an emperor-level powerhouse. As for Lin Feng, he actually had an emperor-level mount. This was really shocking. Great master, this subordinate did not disappoint. I have finally completed the breakthrough. The three-headed viper came to Lin Feng's side and lowered its arrogant head. Not bad, not bad. Let's leave this place first. You can recover well, Lin Feng said with a smile. Now that the three-headed viper had just broken through, its injuries were more serious, and it needed to recuperate. Thank you, great master. The three-headed viper thanked Lin Feng, and then carried Lin Feng away. In the next few days, Lin Feng fed the three-headed viper a few stalks of immortal medicine to help it recover. As for Lin Feng, he had been studying the Gourd of Fortune. After he refined the Gourd of Fortune, he was unable to open it. This made Lin Feng quite depressed. However, after many attempts, Lin Feng finally opened the Gourd of Fortune. Whoosh! Just as he opened the Gourd of Fortune, an immortal light flew out from the Gourd of Fortune. That immortal light soared into the sky and fled into the distance. You can't escape. Lin Feng directly stretched out his hand and suppressed that immortal light. That immortal light was suppressed by Lin Feng. Lin Feng grabbed the thing inside that immortal light. A pill. Lin Feng looked at that thing in shock. That thing was actually a pill. This made Lin Feng very surprised. This pill was densely covered in runes. The purity of the energy was unimaginable. With one look, one could tell that it was an extremely high-grade immortal pill. However, Lin Feng did not know what kind of pill it was. Demon Lord, do you know what kind of pill this is? Lin Feng asked. Chapter 3846, Creation Immortal Pill. It was definitely one of the most mysterious pills. Moreover, the effect was astonishing. Seizing the good fortune of heaven and earth, improving the cultivator's body, allowing the cultivator to soar into the sky. This was the effect of the Creation Immortal Pill. Lin Feng had once seen an introduction to the Creation Immortal Pill in a Tao scripture. It was said that after consuming the Creation Immortal Pill, one could become a flying immortal. Of course, Lin Feng knew this statement was actually an exaggeration, and it was seriously exaggerated. No matter how powerful the pill was, it was impossible to directly make a cultivator become a flying immortal. This was very unrealistic. Such a thing only happened in myths and legends. However, even if it couldn't make a cultivator become a flying immortal, the effect of the Creation Immortal Pill was still extremely shocking. It could definitely greatly increase a cultivator's cultivation. If I consume this Creation Immortal Pill, what level will my cultivation increase to? Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. Right now, Lin Feng was at the 5th level of the Imperial Emperor realm. His realm wasn't particularly high. However, Lin Feng was already extremely satisfied with the increase in his cultivation. After all, he was still so young. He had already broken through to the 5th level of the Imperial Emperor realm. This was an achievement that countless cultivators couldn't achieve in their entire lives. However, in just over 100 years, he had already accomplished it. Lin Feng was proud of himself. However, cultivation was always about pursuing surpassing oneself. And now, Lin Feng was also pursuing surpassing his current self. He hoped to reach a better self. If he swallowed the creation immortal pill, perhaps his cultivation would be greatly improved. The demon lord said, "You can indeed consume this creation immortal pill." However, after a long time, the immortal power of this creation immortal pill has been lost too much. It's hard to say if it can still have a good effect. Hearing this, Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. He recalled what he had encountered when exploring some ancient tombs or cave abodes. At that time, he had also seen some top-notch pills. But time had passed. Those pills had long been destroyed by the power of time. Although the immortal pill of creation had not been completely destroyed by the power of time, as the demon lord had said, the immortal pill of creation could no longer be compared to the past. But even so what? It was fine as long as it worked. Lin Feng did not expect the immortal pill of creation to have the same effect as before. Lin Feng planned to wait for the 3-headed viper to come out of seclusion before swallowing the creation immortal pill. When the time came, the 3-headed viper could help guard the pass. After another 2 days, the 3-headed viper finally recovered completely. Lin Feng ordered the 3-headed viper to protect him. Then, he swallowed the creation immortal pill. Then, Lin Feng started to circulate the archaic dragonesque elephant art. As the archean dragonesque elephant art circulated, the medicinal power of the immortal pill of creation was gradually refined by Lin Feng. The powerful medicinal power was absorbed by Lin Feng's body. After absorbing the medicinal power of the immortal pill of creation, Lin Feng's cultivation level began to increase. Not long after, Lin Feng's cultivation level increased to the 6th level of the Imperial Emperor realm. And this increase was far from over. Lin Feng's cultivation level continued to increase. A day later, his cultivation level increased to the 7th level of the Imperial Emperor realm. At this moment, the medicinal power of the immortal pill of creation was still very majestic. Lin Feng continued to absorb the medicinal power of the immortal pill of creation. When all the medicinal power was absorbed by Lin Feng's cultivation level finally completed another breakthrough. His cultivation level finally stopped at the 8th level of the Imperial Emperor realm. He had swallowed the immortal pill of creation, and it was one that had severely depleted its medicinal power. It had increased by 3 levels. It was hard to imagine how amazing the effects of the immortal pill of creation would be at its peak. But no matter how amazing it was, Lin Feng was destined to not be able to obtain a pill of that level. So, Lin Feng would not think too much about it. After Lin Feng came out of seclusion, he sat cross-legged on the huge head of the 3-headed viper. The 3-headed viper continued to fly deeper into the forest. On this day, dark clouds covered the sky and a torrential rain poured down. Lin Feng found a cave to take shelter from the rain. The 3-headed viper circled above the forest, allowing the rain to fall on its body. The 3-headed viper was a water-type beast, so it liked the feeling of being drenched by the rain. When the sky was about to darken, Lin Feng saw a figure flying outside. After seeing that figure, Lin Feng revealed an extremely shocked expression. It was a woman, and it was a woman that Lin Feng knew. It was none other than Lady Whitesnake. Back then, after Lin Feng took the Gourd of Creation, Emperor Bloodbird chased after Lin Feng. Emperor White Eagle was in charge of dealing with Lady White Snake. It seemed that Emperor White Eagle was unable to kill Lady White Snake. Lin Feng noticed that Lady White Snake's aura was in a mess. Lady White Snake had a Dao injury previously after the battle with Emperor White Eagle. Her injuries had probably worsened. Therefore, Lady White Snake's current situation was extremely bad. It seems that Emperor White Eagle has been chasing after her for some time. Looking at Lady White Snake, who was in a rather sorry state, Lin Feng could not help but think to himself, Emperor White Eagle was extremely terrifying. Of course, Lady White Snake was not weak either. In fact, Emperor White Eagle had also suffered a Dao injury, but it was not as serious as Lady White Snake's. It seems that Lady White Snake wants to leave the Demon Emperor mystic realm. Lin Feng could not help but narrow his eyes. He did not find any trace of Emperor White Eagle. He did not know if Lady White Snake had shaken him off. As for Lady White Snake, she was flying outside. In addition, her injuries were quite serious. It was obvious that she wanted to leave to recuperate. Should I deal with Lady White Snake? Lin Feng could not help but ponder. Even though Lady White Snake was severely injured, she was still extremely terrifying. Therefore, if he wanted to deal with Lady White Snake, he would most likely have to pay a hefty price in the end. He might even be implicated by Lady White Snake. Soon, Lin Feng made a decision. Lady White Snake's cultivation was at its weakest now. It was also the best opportunity to deal with her. If the three-headed viper had not broken through to the Emperor level, he might have chosen this opportunity. However, the three-headed viper had already broken through to the Emperor level. In that case, it would be unwise to give up this opportunity. Therefore, Lin Feng planned to join forces with the three-headed viper to attack Lady White Snake. They might be able to successfully suppress or even purify Lady White Snake. At her peak, Lady White Snake was not someone that ordinary Emperor-level cultivators could compare to. She was definitely an extremely terrifying existence. Lin Feng sent a voice transmission to the three-headed viper. Soon, the three-headed viper flew over from afar. Lin Feng stood on the middle head of the three-headed viper. Lin Feng ordered. The three-headed viper spread its wings and quickly chased in the direction that Lady White Snake had fled. 2 hours later, Lin Feng saw Lady White Snake. Lin Feng leaped up and flew high into the sky. He held the black dragon sword in his hand and used the divine power of man descending from the heavens. Chapter 38:47. Lady White Snake's reaction was extremely fast. When the peerless sword gleam that Lin Feng had transformed into slashed over, she raised her head and looked over. Then she raised her right hand and gently waved it in the void. Buzz! Suddenly, a sword aura condensed and collided with the peerless sword gleam that Lin Feng had transformed into. The sound of a collision was suddenly heard. Lin Feng was forced back and then transformed into his original body. Lady White Snake stopped in midair and looked at Lin Feng coldly. A dragon-like cry came from afar. The three-headed viper also flew over and floated beside Lin Feng. It flicked its forked tongue. He looked at Lady White Snake coldly with his cold eyes. Those were 3 pairs of eyes that made people shudder. Anyone who saw those 3 pairs of eyes would feel their heart palpitate. Lady White Snake, what a coincidence. We meet again here. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at Lady White Snake. Lady White Snake's lifespan was close to 100 million years. Now, she had lived for more than 30 million years. If the age of a cultivator was converted to the age of an ordinary person, then the current Lady White Snake was equivalent to a young woman in her 30s. Lady White Snake was not only powerful, she was also a peerless beauty. However, Lady White Snake was too powerful. Therefore, ordinary people did not dare to be presumptuous in front of Lady Whitesnake. They did not even look at Lady Whitesnake. Very few people regarded Lady Whitesnake as a goddess. It was not that they did not want to, but they did not dare to. The so-called goddess could be seen from afar. If they were lucky, they might even be able to catch up. That was a goddess. As for Lady Whitesnake, the cultivators did not even dare to look at her. Naturally, it was difficult for her to become the goddess in the hearts of others. Lady Whitesnake glanced at the three-headed viper beside Lin Feng. The three-headed viper was at the emperor level. Naturally, she could sense it. This made Lady Whitesnake very surprised. This was because the three-headed viper respected Lin Feng very much. Obviously, Lin Feng should be the master of the three-headed viper. Lady Whitesnake had never seen the three-headed viper before. Therefore, this three-headed viper was obviously a mount that Lin Feng had recently tamed. How did Lin Feng subdue the three-headed viper? Lady Whitesnake's heart was filled with doubts. Do you think you can defeat me just because you tamed an emperor-level three-headed viper? Even though I'm injured now. However, if I want to kill you and the three-headed viper beside you, who is at the first level of the martial monarch realm, it will be as easy as flipping my hand. Lady Whitesnake said, as she looked coldly at Lin Feng. Lin Feng sneered. He said, Lady Whitesnake, your magic power is in chaos, your Tao injury is serious, and your soul seems to be injured as well. I admit that you were extremely terrifying when you were at your peak, but how much strength can you display now? You're already at the end of your rope. You're pretending to be calm now, but you can't deceive me. Let's give it a try then. In the end, let's see who will win. Lady Whitesnake said coldly. As soon as she finished speaking, Lady Whitesnake waved her right hand, and a treasured sword appeared in her hand. It was a twisted treasured sword. It was called the White Snake Sword. It was Lady Whitesnake's natal Dharma treasure. The White Snake Sword was extremely powerful. Once it was activated, it would become one with Lady Whitesnake's body. It could unleash an unimaginably terrifying power. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he took out the heavenly drum, Hell King's bell, stone sword, and other treasures. At the same time, Lin Feng used the one chi into three pure ones technique. The three Lin Feng clones used 3 layers of domineering aura. The 9 layers of domineering aura magnetic field were successfully superimposed. It directly enveloped Lady Whitesnake. Lady Whitesnake was enveloped by the 9 layers of domineering aura magnetic field. Her combat strength was instantly weakened by 30%. Kill! Shouted Lin Feng in a deep voice. Powerful treasures shot towards Miss Whitesnake one after another. At the same time, the three-headed viper also attacked Lady Whitesnake. The 3 heads of the three-headed viper spurted out dense poisonous gas. The poisonous gas swept through the world and enveloped Lady Whitesnake. Then the three-headed viper spewed out lightning and hailstones. The three-headed viper's attack was quite powerful. A white energy surged out of Lady Whitesnake's body. Domineering aura. Lady Whitesnake actually knew how to be domineering. However, Lady Whitesnake's domineering aura was only white. Among the 9 types of domineering aura, the white domineering aura was the second level of domineering aura. Of course, Lady Whitesnake's realm was very high, even though it was only white domineering aura. However, it also displayed extremely terrifying power. The white domineering aura offset part of Lin Feng's 9 layers of domineering aura magnetic field. Originally, Lin Feng's 9 layers of domineering aura magnetic field reduced Lady Whitesnake's combat strength by 30%. However, after Lady Whitesnake used the white domineering aura Lin Feng's 9 layers of domineering aura magnetic field only reduced Lady Whitesnake's combat strength by 20%. As for the poisonous attack spewed out by the 3-headed viper, it was blocked by the white domineering aura. However, the 3-headed viper's lightning and hailstones attack bombarded Lady Whitesnake's white domineering aura. The white domineering aura shook violently. Lin Feng took out more than 10 powerful Dharma treasures and attacked Lady Whitesnake. Humph! Lady Whitesnake snorted coldly and waved the white snake sword in her hand. Streaks of sword energy slashed out. The sword energy actually turned into huge white snakes that were more than 10 meters long in midair. Those white snakes stuck out their forked tongues. Then, they quickly rushed towards Lin Feng's Dharma treasures. Sword energy spirit. Good fellow. This Lady Whitesnake has such a brilliant technique. After seeing the white snakes that were formed by the sword energy, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. He used all his strength to activate more than 10 powerful Dharma treasures, wanting to kill those white snakes. However, those white snakes were very strange. They actually directly entangled Lin Feng's Dharma treasures. This was the ability of a high-level Emperor-level expert. High-level Emperor-level emperors had many unimaginable techniques. Now, Lady Whitesnake's sword chi spirit technique was enough to shock everyone. Now, you can go to hell. Lady Whitesnake leaped up and attacked Lin Feng. She wanted to kill Lin Feng as soon as possible. At this moment, the 3-headed viper turned into a streak of black light. It pierced through the void and stabbed towards Lady Whitesnake. Lady Whitesnake directly waved the white snake sword in her hand and swept it towards the 3-headed viper. Clang! The terrifying attack swept across the 3-headed viper's black light. Instantly, an earth-shattering sound of collision was heard. The 3-headed viper was swept away. Meanwhile, Lady Whitesnake had already quickly arrived in front of Lin Feng. Chapter 3848. There was a typo in front. He had written Lin Feng's realm wrongly. Lin Feng should be at the 6th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm. He had refined the creation immortal pill. He had broken through 3 realms. He was now at the 9th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm. Requesting for another subscription. I hope that everyone can subscribe to the Archean Dragonesque Elephant art officially. This is because Old Mantu has to rely on the royalties to support his family. It's really not easy to earn some hard-earned money. Every month, he had to earn more than 10 yuan, which was the money for a pack of cigarettes. Old Mantu could only earn a small portion of the money. Therefore, it was too tough, and life was too difficult. Therefore, I sincerely hope that everyone can support Old Mantu officially. Everyone can download QQ to read and subscribe to the Archean Dragonesque Elephant art officially, or use QQ Bookstore on your phone to subscribe to the official version. Please support Old Mantu. Chapter 3849. Lady Whitesnake's attack was fast, accurate, and powerful. If he was not careful, Lin Feng might die under Lady Whitesnake's sword. Lin Feng was very clear about this. However, when Lady Whitesnake's invincible attack came, Lin Feng was already prepared. Seeing that the invincible sword was about to stab Lin Feng, swoosh! Lin Feng instantly disappeared without a trace. He had used the great heaven-mending technique to dodge Lady Whitesnake's attack. In the next moment, when Lin Feng reappeared, he was already high up in the sky. Lin Feng's 2 clones retracted into his body. Lady Whitesnake's sword missed. Her gaze darkened slightly. She suddenly stepped into the void. Then Lady Whitesnake's body shot up into the sky like a cannonball. She still held the sword in her hand and attacked. The sword in Lady Whitesnake's hand was simply invincible. The sword pierced through the sky. The power was so strong that it was shocking. At this moment, Lin Feng began to walk forward in the void. He began to chant an incantation. The great path of destiny, please descend with the power of destiny. Let me punish this lowly existence who dares to blaspheme destiny. When Lin Feng's voice fell, a long river of destiny instantly condensed. The long river of destiny flowed and fell from the sky. It was as if it had crossed through endless time and space to arrive in this world. The long river of destiny directly rushed toward Lady Whitesnake. It was like a silver stream descending from the sky. It enveloped Lady Whitesnake within. The water in the long river of destiny was formed by the power of destiny. Now, the water in the long river of destiny was constantly washing away the white domineering aura surrounding Lady Whitesnake's body. Crack! Crack! The white domineering aura around Lady Whitesnake's body was cracking. This was the terrifying part of the path of destiny. Almost no magic in the world could resist the great path of destiny. Come quickly! Lin Feng summoned the three-headed viper. The three-headed viper flew over. Under Lin Feng's command, the three-headed viper transformed into a black beam of light. Lin Feng grabbed the black light in his hand. This black light, it looked like a black spear. Lin Feng was holding the three-headed snake, which had turned into a black light. Then he jumped into the air. Lin Feng's body surged with boundless energy. At that moment, Lin Feng seemed to have transformed into a peerless killing god. People came from the heavens. One sword could slay an immortal. Lin Feng let out a long roar and charged towards Lady Whitesnake. His power was completely connected with the three-headed viper's power. Now, Lin Feng used the three-headed viper's black light as a weapon to unleash this peerless attack. Naturally, the power of this attack was greatly increased. Endless immortal light descended from the 9 heavens. Amidst the endless immortal light, Lin Feng transformed into a cold light and instantly arrived in front of Lady Whitesnake. Endless chill, destroying everything. The white aura around Lady Whitesnake's body, which had already cracked, could not withstand this peerless sharpness. It was directly shattered by the peerless sharpness. The cold light that Lin Feng transformed into instantly collided with the white snake sword in Lady Whitesnake's hand. A powerful force. Lady Whitesnake was forced to retreat. The power of the River of Destiny instantly blasted Lady Whitesnake's body, causing her to suffer countless injuries. Barf! Lady Whitesnake spat out a mouthful of blood. Army mantra! Lin Feng took advantage of this opportunity to activate the army mantra with all his might. Lin Feng's mind was connected to the white snake sword in Lady Whitesnake's hand. The most terrifying thing about the army mantra was that it could forcibly seize control of other people's Dharma treasures. As for Lin Feng, he had taken control of the white snake sword from Madame Whitesnake. The white snake sword instantly broke free from Lady Whitesnake's control and stabbed towards her. This was something that Lady Whitesnake did not expect at all. She did not expect that Lin Feng would seize control of her natal Dharma treasure and attack her instead. Lady Whitesnake quickly moved to the left, wanting to avoid the terrifying attack of the white snake sword. Uffed! Although Lady Whitesnake avoided her vital parts, she was still unable to completely avoid the attack of the white snake sword. The white snake sword tore a wound so deep that her bones could be seen on her shoulder. Blood immediately spurted out. Lin Feng stepped forward and circulated the power of the dragon elephant arm 6 times. Lin Feng threw a punch at Lady Whitesnake. The peerless punch contained shocking power. Lin Feng loved close combat the most. Now, he finally seized the opportunity to do so. Miss Whitesnake hastily moved to block Lin Feng's terrifying punch. Bang! Both parties collided fiercely. Lady Whitesnake was sent flying by Lin Feng's attack. Rumble! The three-headed viper's huge tail attacked Lady Whitesnake. Lady Whitesnake's expression changed drastically. She quickly dodged the huge tail that was like a mountain. However, just as she dodged the three-headed viper's attack, Lin Feng attacked again. Lin Feng's peerless punch was once again aimed at Lady Whitesnake. Lady Whitesnake hurriedly attacked and exchanged a second punch with Lin Feng. This time, she was even worse off. When she was sent flying by Lin Feng, she could not help but vomit blood. Her face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Ah! Lady Whitesnake screamed furiously. She was such a powerful figure, but she was actually beaten to the point of vomiting blood by an ant like Lin Feng. She was really mad with hatred. Before Lin Feng attacked again, a terrifying aura surged out of Lady Whitesnake's body. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. That aura was too terrifying. It made Lin Feng feel the threat of death. A terrifying existence like Lady Whitesnake would definitely have some trump cards up her sleeve. Due to her Tao injury and the injury to her divine soul, Lady Whitesnake did not use those trump cards easily. However, now Lady Whitesnake no longer had any scruples. This was because Lin Feng was giving her too much pressure. If she did not use her trump cards, Lady Whitesnake was worried that she would die in Lin Feng's hands. After Lin Feng sensed the terrifying aura emitted from Lady Whitesnake's body, he did not chase after her. He quickly took out the creation gourd. It was rumored that the creation gourd could refine all living things. Was that true? If that was true, then the creation gourd was absolutely heaven-defying. Lin Feng activated the creation gourd. The stopper of the creation gourd flew out. Then, the creation gourd released a powerful devouring power that surged towards Lady Whitesnake. Creation gourd. Chapter 3850. Ha 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 ha, Lady Whitesnake, you've been kept in the creation gourd and are now my prisoner. If you submit to me now, I'll definitely treat you well in the future. If you're stubborn, then I'll purify you and turn you into a walking corpse. From then on, you'll be my slave. Lin Feng grabbed the creation gourd and could not help but laugh. It felt so good to suppress such a terrifying existence like Lady Whitesnake. The creation gourd was indeed terrifying. It was worthy of being a supreme treasure forged by the fifth-generation immortal king of creation. Even a powerful existence like Lady Whitesnake could not resist the creation gourd's devouring. If the power of this supreme treasure was gradually developed, Lin Feng believed this supreme treasure, it would be even more powerful. It would also be more useful. You want to purify me. That's wishful thinking. Lady Whitesnake's voice was cold. Humph! Lin Feng snorted and said, I'll find a place to purify you immediately. Then Lin Feng and the three-headed viper left. Lin Feng found a valley. The three-headed viper helped Lin Feng guard. Then Lin Feng entered the time and space. He took out the creation gourd. His divine thought entered the creation gourd and immediately discovered, at this moment, white divine light appeared on the surface of Lady Whitesnake's body. The white divine light seemed to be condensing into a giant white cocoon. Lin Feng frowned. This should be Lady Whitesnake's self-protection method. She wanted to use this method to resist his purification. At the same time, she could also quickly recover from her injuries in the giant cocoon. Lady Whitesnake's wishful thinking was quite good. Lin Feng began to use the great purification technique and surged toward Lady Whitesnake. He wanted to purify her, but the power of the great purification technique was blocked by the white divine light on the surface of Lady Whitesnake's body. The purification power that Lin Feng condensed could not invade Lady Whitesnake's body. If the purification power could not invade Lady Whitesnake's body, there was naturally no need to talk about purifying her. That was simply a pipe dream. Lin Feng frowned. Lady White Snake sure had a lot of tricks up her sleeves. Soon, a giant white cocoon was formed, enveloping Lady White Snake within. Lady White Snake, you are now my prisoner, no matter what method you use. You can't change your fate anymore. Now that I'm in the Demon Emperor Mystic Realm, I don't have that much time to fight with you. Once I leave the Demon Emperor Mystic Realm, I will have plenty of time to convert you, Lin Feng said indifferently. Then, he withdrew his consciousness from the Gourd of Fortune. Lin Feng put Miss White Snake in the gourd for the time being. Lin Feng didn't pay attention to her. He put away the Gourd of Fortune and began to recover his dermic powers. After Lin Feng recovered to his peak state, he continued to fly deeper into the forest with the three-headed viper. The three-headed viper was flying at high speed in the sky, the wind whistling. Lin Feng looked into the distance. He saw the surging torrent appear in front of him. The undead army. Lin Feng was surprised. That was an army of undead. The king of the undead was leading the army of undead in the mysterious world. They were looking for cultivators who had come from outside the bestial emperor mysterious world. Then they killed those foreign cultivators, one by one. Lin Feng made the three-headed viper change its direction. They flew in another direction, distancing themselves from the undead army. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of war drums could be heard from a mountain range in the distance. Lin Feng was alarmed. He looked into the distance and saw endless demonic aura rolling. In the demonic aura, there were some figures moving. There seemed to be a great battle going on there. Lin Feng made the three-headed viper shrink. The three-headed viper became more than a meter long. It followed behind Lin Feng and headed toward the place where the great battle was taking place. When Lin Feng arrived, he found that the battle was between a cultivator and a group of powerful guardian puppets. Lin Feng actually knew the cultivator. It was none other than Emperor Julian of the Dark Ancient Forest. Previously, Emperor Julian wanted to kill Lin Feng because of Emperor Yinglong. If Ancestor Xian Gui had not intervened, Emperor Julian would have already attacked Lin Feng. Lin Feng did not expect to see Emperor Julian here. Emperor Julian's combat strength was very strong. He killed the guardian puppets one by one. Although the guardian puppets were strong, they were no match for Emperor Julian. Ha 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 ha! What could be in the cave abode of the Yuan Sage Demon King? After killing more than a dozen guardian puppets, the nine-eyed Emperor Lord burst into laughter. Obviously, this guy had obtained information about the cave abode and came to find it alone. He quickly rushed into the depths of the cave abode. Emperor Julian, whatever you have is destined to be mine. Even you will become my slave. Lin Feng sneered. Emperor Julian was only at the third heaven of the Emperor Master Realm. However, he had mastered the Tao of Destruction. His attack power was very strong. Therefore, Emperor Julian should not be underestimated. However, Lin Feng had now decided to attack Emperor Julian. He planned to hide and sneak attack Emperor Julian. Lin Feng and the three-headed viper had joined forces and defeated the Bloodbird Emperor and Lady White Snake. Therefore, now that his confidence had greatly increased, Lin Feng believed that he and the three-headed viper would definitely be able to defeat Emperor Julian. Moreover, Lin Feng had decided to sneak attack Emperor Julian. Lin Feng had mastered the Tao of Space. He used the Tao of Space and hid in the void with the three-headed viper. Lin Feng and the three-headed viper. Like a peerless killer, he remained motionless and completely concealed his aura. This was because an Emperor Master Realm powerhouse was not to be underestimated. If he made any movements, it was very likely that he would be discovered. They waited for a full 6 hours. Emperor Julian rushed out of the cave abode. Emperor Julian was about to leave when the void in front of him suddenly split open. A ray of black light appeared and pierced towards the nine-eyed Emperor Lord. This black light was formed by the three-headed viper. "You're courting death." Emperor Julian was furious. 9 blood-red lights suddenly swept out from his 9 eyes. The 9 blood-red lights instantly swept across the black light formed by the three-headed viper. Just as Emperor Julian attacked the three-headed viper, Lin Feng quietly appeared behind Emperor Julian. He split open the void and stabbed toward Emperor Julian with the black dragon sword in his hand. Lin Feng hid too well. When the sword stabbed out, it directly stabbed Emperor Julian's protective light shield. Emperor Julian's expression changed greatly. He wanted to quickly turn around and send Lin Feng flying. But Lin Feng did not give him the chance. Lin Feng used the power of the ruler's armor and the golden dwarf in his dantian. The power of his sword, it suddenly increased. Pucci, chapter 38:51. "It's you." Emperor Julian turned his head and saw Lin Feng. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. If looks could kill, Lin Feng would have been cut into pieces by Emperor Julian's cold eyes. Emperor Julian's body emitted a monstrous killing intent. However, Lin Feng's sword had already pierced through his chest. Even though his killing intent was monstrous, it was useless now. "That's right. It's me, Emperor Julian. You've been targeting me. You've treated me like an ant, but you didn't expect this. You actually fell at my hands, didn't you?" Lin Feng looked at Emperor Julian indifferently. "I'm going to kill you." Emperor Julian reached out to grab the black dragon sword that had pierced through his chest. He wanted to pull it out. However, Lin Feng had already made his move. Runes intertwined in the void and wrapped around Emperor Julian. These were the sealing runes that Lin Feng had condensed. The sealing runes wrapped around Emperor Julian's body and immediately sealed Emperor Julian. Emperor Julian was powerful, but he was severely injured. He had no way of resisting Lin Feng's sealing runes. "Break!" the nine-eyed Emperor Lord roared, trying to break free from the sealing runes on his body. However, no matter how many times he tried, it was to no avail. These were the sealing runes that Lin Feng had condensed with the 8 God-sealing seals. The 8 God-sealing seals was an inheritance of the Celestial Master Sect. This divine ability was very heaven-defying. Therefore, it was almost impossible to break the sealing runes condensed by Lin Feng's 8 God-sealing seals. "O great Tao of purification, please send down the power of purification and allow me to purify this sinful person." Yi Fuqian said. Lin Feng began to chant an incantation to summon the power of purification. "Great purification. You actually want to purify me. No, you can't purify me. You can't convert me." Emperor Julian roared in horror. Once converted, they would lose their sense of self and become Lin Feng's slave. Emperor Julian knew this very well. An expert like the Nine-Eyed Emperor was used to being free and unfettered. When he thought about how he was about to become a walking corpse, he couldn't help but shudder. Now, there was only fear in his heart. That was something the Nine-Eyed Emperor Lord absolutely could not accept. "Emperor Julian, you don't have to struggle. No matter how you struggle, they were all useless. You are destined to be converted by me." Lin Feng looked at Emperor Julian indifferently as the power of purification circled around his palm. Lin Feng slapped Emperor Julian's forehead. In an instant, the powerful power of purification poured into Emperor Julian's mind. Emperor Julian let out a low roar. "I'm willing to recognize you as my master, as long as you don't convert me. I'm willing to recognize you as my master." Emperor Julian began to beg for mercy. He did not want to be converted. He would lose his sense of self and his desires. In the future, other than cultivation, he would listen to Lin Feng's words. If he recognized Lin Feng as his master, it would not be like this. Although he had to obey Lin Feng's orders, he could not betray Lin Feng. But at the very least, he still had his own thoughts, his own pursuits, and his inner desires. Other than having to listen to Lin Feng's orders, he was no different from a normal person. So, Emperor Juyin would rather choose to recognize Lin Feng as his master than be converted by Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at Emperor Juyin indifferently and said coldly, "Emperor Juyin, it's not a matter of whether you want to recognize me as your master or not. It's that I don't want a slave like you. I just want to convert you. I want you to be my slave." As his voice fell, an even more powerful power of purification poured into Emperor Juyin's mind. Emperor Juyin kept struggling. However, Emperor Juyin's struggle became more and more difficult. "Little bastard, I curse you to die a horrible death. I curse you that your future will be 10 times, 100 times more miserable than mine." Emperor Juyin cursed loudly. He kept cursing Lin Feng. However, Emperor Juyin's curse had no effect on Lin Feng. Bang, bang, bang. He slapped Emperor Juyin's head 3 times in a row. In an instant, Emperor Juyin's body suddenly froze. He stopped struggling. A serene look appeared in his 9 eyes. "Amit Ba, excellent, excellent. Thank you, Master, for leading this subordinate to good." Emperor Juyin put his palms together. At this moment, he seemed to have become a Buddhist monk. Lin Feng also put his palms together and said, "Since you're able to let go of the butcher's knife, you'll definitely be able to wash away your sins and turn over a new leaf." After successfully converting Emperor Juyin, Lin Feng, Emperor Juyin, and the 3-headed viper flew into the depths of the forest. "Do you know anything about Bai Qingqing and Bai Qingcheng?" Lin Feng looked at Emperor Juyin and asked. The 9-eyed emperor said, replying to Master, "Not long after we entered the Demon Emperor's secret realm, we were surrounded by an army of undead creatures. Many people died tragically, and we were also scattered. However, this subordinate saw the Bai sisters being rescued by the Black Turtle Ancestor. There were also a few other sage emperor-level cultivators who were rescued by the Black Turtle Ancestor. I don't think the Black Turtle Ancestor will allow them to continue staying in the Demon Emperor's secret realm. Perhaps they have already left the Demon Emperor's secret realm." Hearing this, Lin Feng nodded. For the Bai sisters, leaving the Demon Emperor's secret realm was the best choice. If they continued to stay in the Demon Emperor's secret realm, they might encounter a calamity. This place was simply too dangerous. The slightest carelessness could lead to they would die without a burial place. "Do you know the place where Demon Emperor Tai died?" Lin Feng continued to ask. "This subordinate knows the approximate location. I heard the news from the Black Turtle Ancestor. But whether or not the Demon Emperor's secret realm is really there, we need to go to that place to confirm it." Emperor Juyin said, "All right, bring me to that location now." Lin Feng said, "Yes, Master." Emperor Juyin replied. Then he brought Lin Feng to the place where the Demon Emperor died. Along the way, danger lurked everywhere. Lin Feng and the others were even attacked by a small group of undead creatures. However, in the end, they managed to get rid of those undead creatures. In addition, the 3 of them were also attacked by a few terrifying berserk beasts. These terrifying berserk beasts were all-powerful existences that were born in the Demon Emperor's secret realm. After a fierce battle, they got rid of a few terrifying berserk beasts. 5 days later, they saw a huge ancient city in the distance. That ancient city, it towered over the horizon. It was as intimidating as a primordial beast. Lin Feng and the others flew over. When they arrived, there were already many cultivators there. Eastern Imperial City. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at the 3 words written on the plaque above the city gate. The Eastern Imperial City referred to Demon Emperor Tai. Chapter 3852. Before Demon Emperor Tai and Demon Emperor Di Jun established the Heavenly Court, they built the East Royal City. Many of Demon Emperor Tai Yi's relatives lived in the East Royal City. When Demon Emperor Tai Yi disappeared, he was in the East Royal City. He disappeared along with the city. Emperor Juyin said, "The demon race was so prosperous in the past. Why would Demon Emperor Tai Yi disappear for no reason? It's really strange." Lin Feng couldn't help but say, "This is an eternal mystery. No one knows." Emperor Juyin said. Lin Feng nodded. The East Royal City had yet to open, so Lin Feng was still waiting for it to open. More cultivators arrived. Experts from the magical Beast Mountain Range and Cloud Swamp Ancient Forest had arrived, but Lin Feng didn't see Emperor White Eagle. Experts from the other 2 ancient forests, Devouring Sun Ancient Forest and Purgatory Ancient Forest, had also arrived. In addition, experts from the Sky Ruin Island had also arrived. Among the experts from the Sky Ruin Island, there were 2 godstones. Among the godstones, there were obviously self-proclaimed experts. Those were the foundations of the Sky Ruin Island, and now they were here. Those foundations wouldn't awaken easily. They would only awaken when a heaven-defying opportunity appeared. This was because they needed to change their fate, and these heaven-defying opportunities were what they had to fight for. It was just like how Lin Feng had to constantly collect powerful Dharma treasures and divine abilities. Why was that? It was because Lin Feng was preparing for the future. He had to master enough divine abilities and Dharma treasures to constantly increase his foundation. When the doomsday battle arrived, he would be able to better deal with those dangers. Lin Feng also saw the experts from the Sea Demon race. The experts from the Sea Demon race were led by 2 extremely old cultivators. The 2 cultivators were as thin as firewood. They looked like malicious spirits that had crawled out of hell. They were extremely eerie and terrifying. However, their strength was incomparably terrifying. The void where they stood was distorted. The experts of the Epic Lost Tribe had arrived. This time, the true powerhouses of the Epic Lost Tribe had arrived. They were 2 cultivators who didn't look particularly old. In terms of appearance, he looked like a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s. However, their auras were extremely ancient, an existence that transcended epics. Those 2 cultivators. He was actually a powerful existence from the epic remnant race who had transcended epics, just like Tai Dao Honorable Lord and Yuan-Tian Honorable Lord. Although their combat strength had been declining as time passed, they were still too terrifying when they were at their peak. Therefore, even though his cultivation had dropped, his combat strength was still heaven-defying. Naturally, no one dared to provoke such an expert. Lin Feng saw Mo Tianxi among the cultivators of the epic lost race. Mo Tianxi had one of his arms severed by Lin Feng as he fled miserably. Right now, Mo Tianxi's face was pale. The injury of losing an arm wasn't something that could be recovered so quickly. When Mo Tianxi saw Lin Feng in the distance, boundless killing intent and hatred shot out from his eyes. As the direct descendant of the noble epic lost race, he had nearly died in the hands of a human cultivator like Lin Feng. This nearly drove Mo Tianxi insane. To him, this was simply a great humiliation. Lin Feng also saw Mo Tianxi. However, he didn't bother about Mo Tianxi. A mere Mo Tianxi wasn't worthy of his attention. Mo Tianxi seemed to want to seek revenge from Lin Feng. He was whispering something to the two powerhouses of the epic lost race beside him. The two powerhouses of the epic lost race looked at Lin Feng. They then retracted their gazes. It's not the right time to take action. Let's find another chance, one of the powerhouses said. Mo Tianxi couldn't wait to tear Lin Feng into pieces. However, since the old ancestor had spoken, he didn't dare to disobey the old ancestor. He could only wait patiently. The experts of the Dragon Palace had arrived. They were led by the experts who had sealed themselves in the stone materials. They were the foundation of the Dragon Palace. Lin Feng saw the ninth prince, Ao Shen, among the group of people from the Dragon Palace. This guy was standing beside the stone material with a cautious look. He was waiting for the experts who had sealed themselves in the stone material to give him orders. As for Yao Wuxiu, who he had seen previously, Lin Feng didn't see him this time around. Not long after, the roars of beasts shook the sky. 7 to 8 powerful beasts had arrived. These beasts were terrifying existences in the Demon Emperor's secret realm. Now that they had arrived, they were floating in midair. After the arrival of these beasts, a few Emperor-level experts of the Dark Ancient Forest had arrived. The old ancestor of the Black Tortoise saw Lin Feng. The three-headed viper and Emperor Julian were a strange combination. They knew about the conflict between Lin Feng and Emperor Julian. However, the two of them had actually come together. This was really strange. As for the three-headed viper, it had a ferocious aura. It was obviously a beast. Why was it together with Lin Feng, the old ancestor of the Black Tortoise, and the others flew towards Lin Feng? Senior. Lin Feng cupped his fists. Emperor Julian also greeted the group. Everyone exchanged greetings. The other Emperor-level experts were also very curious. They didn't know how Lin Feng and Emperor Julian had reconciled. However, this was a matter between Lin Feng and Emperor Julian. This was someone else's private matter. Therefore, the few of them didn't ask about Lin Feng and Emperor Julian. Lin Feng looked at the old ancestor of the Black Tortoise and asked, "Senior, may I know where the Bai sisters are? Brat, you don't have to worry about them. They have already left. I don't think there will be any danger." The old ancestor of the Black Tortoise said. Lin Feng cupped his fists and thanked. "Old ancestor, thank you for taking care of the Bai sisters." The old ancestor of the Black Tortoise said, "If you really want to thank this old man hopes that you can use your body to block in front of this old man when you encounter danger." Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. The old ancestor of the Black Tortoise was really shameless. Such an expert wanted him to block danger for him. This was really shameless. Everyone was waiting for the restriction of the East Imperial Kingdom to disappear. Lin Feng felt that other than these cultivators, there might be other cultivators hiding in the dark. It was just that those cultivators hadn't shown themselves yet. In the next few days, the strength of the restriction of the East Imperial Kingdom continued to weaken. On the 4th day, the restriction that enveloped the East Imperial Kingdom's gate disappeared. However, the restriction above the gate was still there. Moreover, the restriction above the gate didn't seem to have any signs of disappearing. However, this was enough. Some cultivators couldn't wait to fly towards the gate of the East Imperial Kingdom and pushed it open. Then, they entered the East Imperial Kingdom. The rest of the cultivators also entered the East Imperial Kingdom. Chapter 38:53. The streets of the ancient city were very wide and had an ancient aura to them. After entering the ancient city, Lin Feng saw many skeletons scattered on the ground. Many houses in the city were also destroyed. A great battle had taken place here in the past. Moreover, there were many casualties. Could it be that someone sealed the city back then? They made it so that the people in the city couldn't leave, and then started killing all the cultivators in the city. In the end, everyone in the city was killed. Were they all slaughtered? Emperor Great Rock said. That everyone couldn't help but frown and ponder. Emperor Great Rock's words were indeed very likely. However, the East Imperial Kingdom was where Demon Emperor Tai Yi's clan lived. Demon Emperor Tai Yi spent most of his time in the East Imperial Kingdom. Back then, the East Imperial Kingdom disappeared with Demon Emperor Tai Yi. Who would dare to kill Demon Emperor Tai Yi's clan? Many people had already entered the city to investigate the specific situation of the East Royal City. Lin Feng and the others also rushed in. Many courtyards were extremely dilapidated, and most of the cultivators went straight to the larger courtyards. Those larger residences might have been the residences of experts in the past, or the residences of people who were close to the Eastern Emperor Tai Yi. Therefore, in those courtyards, one could often find some good things. Lin Feng and the others also entered a mansion. It was gigantic. When they arrived at the second courtyard, something terrifying happened. The great array intertwined. An 8 trigrams formation was formed, trapping everyone within. What was shocking was that the 8 trigrams array was quickly operating. He wanted to refine the people trapped in the formation to death. Everyone's expression abruptly changed. Everyone joined forces to resist the 8 trigrams array's refinement. A powerful refining force surged as everyone looked for a way to break the array. Lin Feng had a deep understanding of the 8 trigrams, but the 8 trigrams array here made Lin Feng helpless. In the past, the person who set it up must have had an extremely high cultivation level, far surpassing Lin Feng's own level of array formation. Otherwise, Lin Feng wouldn't have been stumped by the 8 trigrams array here. The Black Tortoise ancestor and the others also had profound attainments in formations. However, there was nothing they could do in the face of the 8 trigrams formation. Many people's faces became extremely gloomy. Now, everyone could only resist the 8 trigrams array's refinement while searching for the array's weakness. Other than that, there was no other way to break the 8 trigrams formation. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was already nighttime. At that moment, everyone realized that as night fell, the power of the 8 trigrams formation became weaker and weaker. Look, a blood-red moon has appeared. Someone pointed to the sky. Everyone looked over and saw a blood-red moon. The blood moon represented inauspiciousness. Normally, it would only be seen in some extremely dangerous places, such as the land of death. Whenever a blood moon was seen, nothing good would happen. Now, everyone was actually seeing a blood moon. This caused many people's hearts to tremble slightly. When the blood-red moonlight shone on the 8 trigrams formation, the 8 trigrams formation that trapped Lin Feng, and the others gradually dissipated. Lin Feng and the others broke free. This made them heave a sigh of relief. The 8 trigrams formation was too terrifying. There was no way to break it. If they continued to be trapped here, they might be refined to death by the 8 trigrams formation. Fortunately, now that they were finally out of danger, everyone hurriedly recovered their magical power. At this moment, the sound of playing the zither suddenly came from the depths of the courtyard. The sound of the zither was very beautiful. The sudden sound of the zither caused everyone's expression to change slightly. The main reason was that the place was wrong. If it was a night with a full moon, everyone would be interested in sitting down and listening to this beautiful zither sound. However, the key point was that this was the East Imperial City, which was full of danger and danger. Now that the blood moon was in the sky, it was eerie and terrifying. No one was in the mood to listen to others playing the zither. Perhaps the person playing the zither was not human at all. This is too strange. Let's leave here quickly." The great Dream Emperor said in a deep voice. This woman was very scary. She could sense some things that others could not. Now, after hearing the zither sound, the great Dream Emperor was very uneasy. No one had any objections. The situation in front of them was indeed too strange. Everyone did not want to stay in this courtyard any longer, even if this group of people had powerful cultivation. However, in the face of this situation, they could not help but feel a little scared. Everyone quickly came to an agreement and planned to leave immediately. However, at this moment, a faint voice came from the depths of the courtyard. "Dear guests, please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. Dear guests, could it be that you feel that the zither music I played was not nice? Is that why you are in such a hurry to leave?" It was a very pleasant voice. Lin Feng even felt that he had never heard such a pleasant voice. Everyone could not help but stop in their tracks. Everyone looked at each other and saw the gloomy expression in each other's eyes. Now, it seemed that they could not leave even if they wanted to. "Let's go in and take a look. There are so many of us. Could it be that we are afraid of a mere human?" The Black Turtle Patriarch said. He paused in the middle of his words, probably wanting to say a ghost. However, he did not say it in the end. Now, entering seemed to be the only way. Everyone mustered up their courage and walked into the inner courtyard. After entering the inner courtyard, everyone saw that the lights in the courtyard were lit. In the middle of the courtyard sat a woman in white. In front of the woman in white was a zither. She was wearing a veil, and no one could see her face clearly. That pair of delicate hands was now plucking the strings. The pleasant sound of the zither curled up and intertwined with graceful notes. If it were not for the wrong occasion, everyone would have been conquered by the woman in white's zither music. There's a shadow. It shouldn't be a ghost, right? Lin Feng saw the woman in white's shadow. A ghost. There was no shadow. Whether it was the most ordinary ghost or the most powerful ghost immortal, there was no shadow. However, the woman in white in front of him, she had a shadow. After hearing Lin Feng's words, everyone looked at the woman in white's shadow. After seeing the woman in white's shadow, their expressions seemed to be better. This was a zither music filled with happiness and beauty. The woman in white was completely integrated into it. Lin Feng even felt that he could even feel from the zither music. He could feel every fluctuation in the woman in white's heart. When the zither music ended, a gentle breeze blew, blowing the veil on the woman in white's face into the distance. The woman in white's beautiful face appeared in front of everyone's eyes. What a beautiful woman! When he saw that delicate face, Lin Feng could not help but be shocked. The woman in white was really too beautiful. It was a kind of beauty that could not be described with words. Chapter 38:54. Such a woman was so beautiful that it was suffocating. What was her identity? It really made people curious. "Who are you?" The Bloodwing Emperor narrowed his eyes and asked the woman. "I'm the most beautiful person in the world," the woman said, then stood up and walked toward the crowd. Her words, that was an indescribable confidence. However, the crowd really couldn't refute her words, because this woman was really too beautiful. Before seeing this woman, Lin Feng had always thought that the Empress was the most beautiful woman in the world. No one could be compared to the Empress. But now, Lin Feng changed his mind, although the woman in front of him couldn't compare to the Empress's peerless appearance. However, she had a face that was not inferior to the Empress's. She and the Empress each had their own merits. The Empress was more charming, and this woman was more like a fairy. She was like a fairy floating in the air. She was like a woman who didn't eat the food of mortals. Anyone who saw this woman would be amazed. "You are indeed very beautiful," the Bloodwing Emperor said. This was something that no one could refute because this woman was really too beautiful. Of course, the great Dream Emperor was also very beautiful. She was also a peerless beauty. However, when she saw this woman, the great Dream Emperor was actually quite jealous of her. No matter how powerful her cultivation was, women were women, and women were always jealous. This was human nature. It wasn't a flaw in character. Women competed with each other in beauty. It was like men competing with each other to see who was more handsome. This was a kind of psychological competition, a kind of psychological pleasure. Do you think I'm beautiful? The woman continued to look at the others. She looked at the Emperor Yunzhe. Yes, the Emperor Yunzhe nodded and said. Then the woman looked at the great Rock Emperor. Yes, too beautiful. The great Rock Emperor also said. The woman looked at the Emperor Juyin. Extremely beautiful. The Emperor Juyin replied. Every time someone praised her beauty, the woman would be very happy, and there would be a charming smile on her face. She looked at the divine Monkey Emperor. As beautiful as a fairy, the divine Monkey Emperor replied. She looked at the three-headed viper. The three-headed viper kept nodding. Her gaze swept past the three-headed viper and looked at the black turtle ancestor. The black turtle ancestor suddenly grinned and said, "Beautiful, you're too beautiful, too charming. My little heart has been pounding nonstop ever since I saw you. I wonder if I'll have a chance to talk about life and ideals with you." Everyone rolled their eyes in unison. Shameless. How shameless. Was this something an ancestor-level expert should say? But this was the ancestor of Black Tortoise, the guy who carried forward the word shameless. In the future, there will be plenty of opportunities. The woman smiled faintly. There was a saying that went, "Looking back with a smile, 100 beauties will be born." Perhaps this was what the woman was like. The woman's beauty was a kind of beauty that shook one's heart. It was a kind of beauty that was unforgettable. The woman then looked at Lin Feng and asked, "Am I beautiful?" "Yes, of course. You're the second woman I've ever seen who's as beautiful as you," Lin Feng said. The woman stopped and asked, "What's wrong? Is there someone else who's as beautiful as me?" "Yes, there is." Lin Feng nodded honestly. "Where is she?" The woman asked. Lin Feng said, "Maybe she's in the Undying Realm or somewhere else. I haven't seen her in a long time." The woman nodded, then looked past Lin Feng and at the Great Dream Empress. The Great Dream Empress was the only woman in the group. The Great Dream Empress kept pursing her lips. Even if you're beautiful, there's no need for everyone to praise you, right? Who are you showing off to? The Great Dream Empress was also very beautiful. However, facing this woman, the Great Dream Empress felt a little frustrated. This made her feel very uncomfortable in her heart. Of course, in her heart, she was also a little jealous of this woman. This kind of jealousy originated from the woman's beauty. "Am I beautiful?" The woman looked at the Great Dream Empress and asked. The Great Dream Empress's face suddenly turned ugly. "It's fine if you ask these men if you're beautiful, but now you're actually asking me, a woman, if I'm beautiful? What's the meaning of this? Are you trying to show off?" The Great Dream Empress replied indifferently, "No." "What did you say?" The woman's voice suddenly became cold, and her eyes could not help but reveal a sinister expression. "I said you're not beautiful. Don't you understand human language?" The Great Dream Empress's temper wasn't small, and she sneered in response. She had long disliked this woman, and now that she had shed all pretense of cordiality, she naturally didn't mind scolding her. "How dare you say I'm not beautiful? How dare you say I'm not beautiful? How dare you say I'm not beautiful?" The woman let out a series of sharp and ear-piercing screams. Her voice was originally very pleasant to the ears, but now her voice was becoming more and more unpleasant and hoarse. She roared and screamed angrily. A large amount of corpse chi surged out of her body. Next, a foul stench was emitted from her body. Originally, her body had a unique fragrance that was unique to women. But now, her body was emitting a foul smell. It was really unacceptable. How dare you say I'm not beautiful? You deserve to die. You deserve to die. The woman roared with resentment. Her fingernails began to grow, and soon they were 1/2 meter long. Her body began to rot, especially that pair of delicate face that could be broken by blowing on it. At this moment, it was rotting at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, that face that was so beautiful that it took one's breath away, it had turned into a rotten face. It was a face that couldn't be seen clearly. It was simply too ugly. It was so ugly that one couldn't help but feel nauseous. This scene was too sudden, so much so that it was a little hard for everyone to accept. Holy shit! My divine eyes have gone blind. The Black Tortoise Patriarch wailed, recalling that not long ago he wanted to talk about life and ideals with this woman under the moonlight. Now he felt a chill. What the hell is this? Her face is rotten beyond recognition. The corpse of a zombie won't rot to this extent, right? Lin Feng couldn't help but frown and say he had seen many zombies, but those zombies' faces were, at least, clearly visible. As for this woman's face, it was truly rotten beyond recognition. Am I beautiful? Do you think I'm beautiful? The woman looked at everyone. Chapter 38:55. Everyone couldn't help but roll their eyes. You're so ugly. Even the evil spirits of hell aren't as ugly as you. Don't you have any self-awareness? How dare you ask everyone if you're beautiful? How could you have the nerve to ask that? You're really too ugly. The great dream empress curled her lips. Seeing how ugly this woman was, her confidence as a woman was boosted. Everyone nodded in agreement. This woman, she was so ugly that Lin Feng and the others felt like crying. All of you deserve to die. All of you deserve to die. The woman roared angrily, her sharp claws grabbing at the air. Swoosh, swoosh. Numerous claw lights flew out, grabbing at everyone. Lin Feng was also locked down by a claw. When he sensed the chi of that claw, he was shocked. When he sensed the claw light, Lin Feng's face turned pale. The claw light's aura was too terrifying. Lin Feng felt a thick aura of death from the claw light. He didn't dare to hesitate and quickly took out the ruler's armor. Then Lin Feng took out the black dragon sword. Holding the black dragon sword in his hand, he swung it at the claw light. Clang! Lin Feng's black dragon sword collided with the claw light. In an instant, Lin Feng felt as if a primordial immortal mountain had crashed into him. That kind of collision was simply too violent. Lin Feng was sent flying. Barf! He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His face turned as white as a sheet. Lin Feng felt as if his internal organs had shifted. The others weren't in good condition after taking the woman's attack. Large chunks of flesh were clawed off the three-headed viper's body. Blood spurted out. A bloody hole appeared in the nine-eyed Emperor Lord's chest. Half of the great rock emperor's wing was almost torn off. A large chunk of the Bloodwing Emperor's abdomen was clawed off. One of the Cloud Pool Emperor's eyes was blinded. The divine Monkey Emperor's back had a huge wound. His spine was exposed. It was extremely terrifying. The ancestor of the Black Tortoise was in a better condition. His true body was a sacred beast, the Black Tortoise. His defense was extremely strong. Therefore, the woman's attack was unable to break through the Black Turtle Patriarch's defense. As for the Great Dream Empress, she wasn't a simple woman. Lin Feng saw a claw light about to grab the Great Dream Monarch's body, but who would have thought that the Great Dream Monarch's body would become very illusory? Thus, the Great Dream Emperor Lord successfully dodged the woman's terrifying attack. "That's too cruel. Hurry up and run," Ancestor of the Black Tortoise shouted. "We can't run away. The 8 trigrams formation is right outside. The 8 trigrams formation must be controlled by this woman. If we run into the courtyard outside and get trapped by the 8 trigrams formation, we won't be able to do anything even if we ask for help." Lin Feng said in a deep voice. Hearing this, the Black Tortoise ancestor's expression changed again and again. It was indeed as Lin Feng had said. If it was too dangerous to go out now, none of you can go out. You'll all die here. The woman's voice was hoarse and filled with resentment. A large amount of corpse energy surged out of her body, and the corpse energy covered the sky. It sealed the entire courtyard. The woman wanted to catch a turtle in a jar. She wanted to trap Lin Feng and the others here. "Beauty, let's talk things over. There's no need to fight, right?" Lin Feng said as he looked at the ugly woman who was emitting a foul smell. He felt that he was lying when he said the word beauty. However, he had to do this in order to survive. "Kid, it's too late to beg for mercy now. All of you deserve to die." The woman's sharp and ear-piercing voice rang out. Then she pounced on Lin Feng and the others. Right at this moment, the Bloodwing Emperor waved his hand, and a treasure flew out. It was a treasure. It was a golden alms bowl. The golden alms bowl was densely covered with runes. It seemed to be a Buddhist treasure. Those runes were also Buddhist runes. The Bloodwing Emperor directly took out the golden alms bowl. The runes on the golden alms bowl awakened. Each rune revealed the figure of an arhat. There were a total of 108 arhats. Those arhats were all sitting cross-legged and chanting Buddhist scriptures. The golden alms bowl continued to grow in size. It turned upside down and trapped the woman inside. "This treasure is powerful." Lin Feng could not help but be shocked. Clang! The golden alms bowl fell to the ground. As for the woman, she was trapped inside the golden alms bowl. "This forbidden treasure won't last long. Hurry up and leave this place," the Bloodwing Emperor said in a low voice as he turned and fled outside. Lin Feng and the others did not dare to hesitate. One after another, they fled towards the outside. Everyone rushed out of the courtyard. As soon as they rushed out, they saw the Lord of the Undead leading a dozen Emperor-level undead over from afar. Damn, what bad luck. When they saw these people, everyone could not help but roll their eyes. The Lord of the Undead was too powerful. In addition, the subordinates beside him were so terrifying. Naturally, the group of people did not hesitate and fled into the depths of the courtyard. Chase, the Lord of the Undead, waved his hand and shouted coldly. He and his subordinates quickly chased after Lin Feng and the others. It was not easy to get rid of these people. Some people chose to leave the group and act alone. However, no matter who left the group, 2 powerful undead chased after them. Damn, why do I feel that guy's eyes are staring at you? The Black Turtle ancestor glanced at the Lord of the Undead, and then at Lin Feng. This guy also turned and ran toward another passage. After the Black Turtle ancestor left, the Great Rock Emperor and the Divine Monkey Emperor also left. In the end, only Lin Feng, the 3-headed viper, and the Emperor Juyan were left. "Why are you chasing after me?" Lin Feng looked at the Lord of the Undead gloomily. The Lord of the Undead said coldly, "You took something that does not belong to you. Now, you'd better hand it over." Lin Feng knew that the Lord of the Undead was talking about the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram. The 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram was very targeted, and its power was extremely terrifying. However, to the Lord of the Undead, the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram did not seem to be indispensable. However, the Lord of the Undead was so interested in the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram. He did not know the reason. Lin Feng felt that there were many strange things about this. Since I've already taken it, then it's mine. Lin Feng curled his lips and said, "You don't know the meaning of death." The Lord of the Undead said coldly. He increased his speed and chased after Lin Feng and the others. There were 5 Emperor-level undead beside him. If these people caught up, the situation would be extremely dangerous. Therefore, Lin Feng, the Emperor Juyan, and the 3-headed viper also increased their speed. However, the 3 of them, Chapter 38:56, the Lord of the Undead Creatures cultivation was already terrifying enough. Now, in addition to the 5 great undead creatures, Lin Feng, Emperor Juyan, and the 3-headed viper were naturally in a very bad situation. However, Lin Feng was not without something to rely on. He relied on the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram. Previously, Lin Feng had relied on the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram to scare away the Lord of the Undead Creatures. Now, would he be able to scare away the Lord of the Undead Creatures and the others again? Lin Feng was not sure either. Last time, the Lord of the Undead Creatures was alone, and now he had 5 helpers. Of course, what made Lin Feng feel a little more at ease was that he now had the 2 great helpers, Emperor Juyan and the 3-headed viper. The 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram floated above Lin Feng, shaking out waves of powerful fluctuations. Lin Feng looked at the Lord of the Undead Creatures with an indifferent expression and said, "Now that I am in control of the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram, it is a great restraint on you. Could it be that you really want to fight until both sides suffer? Did you give up just now?" The Lord of the Undead Creatures said coldly, "If you don't want to fight until both sides suffer, you should hand over the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram. However, you can rest assured that if you hand over the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram, I will definitely not kill you and can let you go." Lin Feng naturally did not believe the Lord of the Undead Creatures' words. Believing his words was better than believing that pigs could climb trees. Looks like there's no room for discussion between us. Since that's the case, then let's fight. Lin Feng sneered, and a powerful mana poured into the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram. At the same time, Emperor Juyan, the 3-headed viper, they all attacked. Powerful mana poured into the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram. After the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram absorbed the mana of the 3 of them, it became extremely powerful, and waves of terrifying fluctuations surged out from the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram. Those waves of fluctuations contained a power that could destroy the heavens and earth. Shwa, shwa, whoosh. The Triclear 8 trigrams diagram each shot out a beam of light. The 3 beams of light fused together, and then shrouded the Lord of Undead and the other 5 undead creatures. "Do it," the Lord of the Undead Creatures said coldly as he stepped forward. Boundless corpse chi gushed out from his body. The corpse chi was simply too powerful. It directly blasted towards the light beam that swept out from the 3 pristine 8 trigrams diagram. Bang! The corpse energy gushing out from the main body of the undead creature collided with the light beam from the 3 clear 8 trigrams diagram in midair. The light beam from the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram gained the upper hand, suppressing the corpse energy gushing out from the main body of the undead creature. At this time, The other 5 creatures also made their moves. Large amounts of corpse chi gushed out from their bodies. The corpse power surging out of their bodies merged with the corpse power surging out of the main body of the undead creature, and all of them blasted towards the light beam emitted from the trigrams. The light beam from the 3 clear 8 trigrams diagram was immediately suppressed after the 5 undead creatures joined the battle. The corpse energy grew stronger and stronger, constantly suppressing the light beam from the 3 clear 8 trigrams diagram. The light beam from the 3 clear 8 trigrams diagram was constantly compressed towards Lin Feng and the others. So, the light beam from the 3 clear 8 trigrams diagram became shorter and shorter. The situation, it was extremely bad. The Lord of the Undead Creatures said gloomily, "Boy, despair, tremble. Soon, you will fall into my hands. When the time comes, let's see how you die." The Lord of the Undead Creatures felt very refreshed now. Last time, he was forced to retreat by Lin Feng's 3 clear 8 trigrams diagram, which made him depressed for a long time. But now, he could finally take revenge. Lin Feng's face became more and more gloomy. If this continued, the situation would be extremely bad for him. Therefore, now he had to find a way to reverse the current unfavorable situation. If he couldn't find a way to reverse the unfavorable situation, then Lin Feng knew that he was likely to fall into eternal damnation. However, Lin Feng had never thought of a way to reverse the current unfavorable situation. The holy monk's skeleton in the demon palace. At this time, the demon lord's voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. Hearing this, Lin Feng's eyes lit up slightly. The holy monk's skeleton in the demon palace was indeed very extraordinary, and its origin was extremely mysterious. At the beginning, Lin Feng was unable to control the holy monk's skeleton and was unable to move it out at all. However, as Lin Feng's cultivation increased, Lin Feng was gradually able to control the holy monk's skeleton. Of course, at the current stage, Lin Feng could only move the holy monk's skeleton, but he was still unable to activate it. He wanted to activate the holy monk's skeleton. Perhaps he still needed to greatly increase his cultivation to be able to do this. Lin Feng's divine sense communicated with the holy monk's skeleton. Shua. In the next moment, a light flashed. The holy monk's skeleton suddenly flew out. The holy monk's skeleton emitted waves of terrifying aura. Endless holy light surged out from the holy monk's skeleton. And those holy lights were dazzling and incomparably gorgeous. The holy monk's skeleton sat cross-legged in the holy light. Although he was just a skeleton, he gave off an incomparably sacred feeling. After the holy monk's skeleton appeared, the holy light spread out in all directions. Those dazzling holy light enveloped Lin Feng, Emperor Juyan, and the 3-headed viper. At the same time, that holy light also enveloped the Lord of the Undead and the other 5 undead. The Lord of the Undead and the other 5 undead couldn't help but frown slightly, although they were incomparably powerful after feeling the aura and fluctuations emitted from the holy light. The Lord of the Undead and the other 5 undead felt that the situation seemed to be a little wrong. This was an instinctive reaction. It was like the ability of a cultivator's sudden inspiration. "Retreat," the Lord of the Undead said in a deep voice. He took the lead to retreat, and the other 5 undead also retreated one after another. Then, they released an even more powerful corpse aura, wanting to use that corpse aura to devour the holy light. However, when the corpse aura came in contact with the holy light, it actually burned fiercely in midair. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng's face showed an extremely shocked expression. Those holy lights, they were really different. Soon, the corpse aura was completely burned away, and the speed of the holy light suddenly increased. enveloping the Lord of the Undead and the other 5 undead. One of the undead creatures retreated at a slightly slower speed. Then, something shocking happened. The undead's body actually spontaneously combusted. That undead wanted to extinguish the flames on its body, but it failed. That terrifying undead creature was finally burned to ashes. It's him, it's a skeleton after he died. The Lord of the Undead couldn't help but exclaim. He seemed to have thought of the origin of the holy monk's skeleton. Therefore, his gaze towards the holy monk's skeleton was uncertain, and his expression was extremely ugly. Lin Feng's heart couldn't help but tremble. The hymn that the Lord of the Undead mentioned. Chapter 38:57. The Lord of the Undead creatures had a great background when he was alive. From the moment he transformed into an undead creature and had an army of 100,000 undead creatures under his command, one could tell how extraordinary he was. If it wasn't for the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram, Lin Feng, Emperor Julian, and the 3-headed viper naturally wouldn't be a match for the Lord of the Undead creatures. They would most likely die at the hands of the Lord of the Undead creatures. However, even someone as powerful as the Lord of the Undead creatures showed such a shocked expression when he thought of the holy monk skeleton. There was even a trace of horror in his expression. This was enough to explain too many problems. Do you know who he is? Lin Feng looked at the Lord of the Undead creatures and asked, "So what if I know? But it doesn't seem like I have the obligation to tell you." The Lord of the Undead creatures sneered. His mood was quite bad, because he was about to get rid of Lin Feng. Who would have thought? Surprisingly, Lin Feng had taken out a holy monk's skeleton and had turned the tide of the battle. This kind of thing, if it was anyone else, who wouldn't be depressed? Lin Feng knew that he couldn't get anything useful from the Lord of the Undead creatures, so he tried to continue to communicate with the holy monk skeleton. In fact, the current Lin Feng could only move the holy monk skeleton. It was difficult to do other things. For example, Lin Feng tried to inject his magic power into the holy monk skeleton's body, but he couldn't do it. The surface of the holy monk skeleton was surrounded by a layer of special power, which blocked Lin Feng's magic power from entering. It could be said to be extremely strange. The only thing Lin Feng could do was to stand aside and watch the holy monk skeleton release a powerful attack. The holy light kept spreading. The undead creatures were known as undead creatures, but it wasn't completely undead, because between heaven and earth, there were always some special powers that could restrain the undead creatures. So, when those powers that could restrain the undead creatures appeared, there was a high probability of killing the undead creatures. For example, the holy light now, it had just killed an undead creature. The Lord of the Undead creatures and the other 4 undead creatures chose to retreat quickly. They did not dare to let the holy light envelop their bodies. This was a lesson learned from the past. It was right in front of him. How could he dare to take the risk? "Brat, I have to say, you're really lucky, but you took something that doesn't belong to you. Therefore, this matter will definitely not end here." The Lord of the Undead creatures looked coldly at Lin Feng. Immediately after, he led the other 4 undead creatures and quickly left. After the Lord of the Undead and the other 4 undead left, Lin Feng let out a sigh of relief. Whoosh! The skeleton of the holy monk disappeared on its own. He returned to the Chonglu demonic palace. Lin Feng couldn't help smacking his lips. He couldn't help but feel that the skeleton of the holy monk was a little strange. However, Lin Feng was unable to pinpoint exactly what was strange about it. Lin Feng put away the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram, then walked into the depths of the forest with Emperor Julian and the 3-headed viper. When the Lord of the Undead and the others had chased after them, the others had all fled. This made Lin Feng fully realize one thing. The so-called allies were the most unreliable. Only his own people, such as Emperor Juyin, the three-headed viper, they were the most reliable, because no matter what happened, Emperor Juyin and the three-headed viper would never betray him. The streets of the East Imperial City were intertwined and extended in all directions. It was extremely huge. Not long after, Lin Feng saw 4 to 5 cultivators at the corner of a street. At the same time, he also saw a breathtakingly beautiful female cultivator. When he saw the female cultivator, Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. That female cultivator, not anyone else. It was that extremely ugly and terrifying female cultivator from before. Lin Feng couldn't help but mourn for those cultivators. Those cultivators were really unlucky to have been targeted by that woman. Perhaps they would all be wiped out. Lin Feng and the other 2 hurriedly left. They rushed towards the depths of the forest. Perhaps there would be the opportunity they wanted in the depths. However, the East Imperial City wasn't safe at night. There were vengeful spirits floating everywhere. It was extremely terrifying. Moreover, there were some terrifying corpse demons entrenched here. Ah! A scream came from the street in front of them. Lin Feng and the other 2 were alarmed and quickly rushed over. When they arrived, they only saw a pool of blood on the ground, but they didn't find anything. This caused their hearts to tremble slightly. It was too strange. They didn't know what kind of creature was responsible for this. It was a peerless terror. There were still some cultivators who were attracted over. After arriving here, they couldn't help but frown with solemn expressions. There are some unknown dangers in this ancient city. Perhaps it's even more dangerous than that female cultivator. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. He felt that there might be such a possibility. Lin Feng, Emperor Juyin, and the three-headed viper left. He took out the Buddhist treasure Kasaya. This treasure floated above, protecting the 3 of them. However, Lin Feng still felt a cold aura. In the darkness, it was as if something was sizing him up. However, when Lin Feng used his spiritual will to search, he didn't find anything. This was the strangest part. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. Perhaps it was because of the Buddhist treasure Kasaya, but the existence in the darkness didn't appear. However, Lin Feng felt that the terrifying existence had never left and had always been following him. This made him feel a little uneasy. Finally, Lin Feng and the other 2 arrived at the depths of the city. There was a huge palace here. Inside, there were endless halls. Now, the walls of the palace had collapsed, but it was estimated. In the past, this palace was the palace where the demon Emperor Tai lived. People came here one after another and then entered the palace. Lin Feng and the other 2 were no exception as they rushed into the palace. Most of the palaces in the palace had already collapsed. However, there were still some palaces that were well preserved. Many people came in front of a huge palace. Now, the palace was surrounded by black gas. The black gas turned into mysterious runes. Each mysterious rune contained an extremely terrifying power that made one's heart palpitate. Those runes intertwined together and completely sealed the entire palace. There were already many people who were breaking the restrictions of the palace. They wanted to open the palace and enter to see what was inside. In the end, the restrictions around the palace were broken. Many cultivators entered the palace. The interior of the palace was very large. Lin Feng, Emperor Juyin, and the three-headed viper also entered the palace. After entering the palace, they immediately found that the palace was filled with a rotten aura. On the ground, there were many skeletons. Because the people who died were too long ago, those skeletons would shatter at the slightest touch. Boom! Violent fluctuations came from inside. Some cultivators seemed to have found something good, so a battle broke out. Chapter 3858. The undying phoenix's body emitted a shocking energy fluctuation. It flapped its wings. The void seemed to be about to split open. Many cultivators rushed out, wanting to catch the undying phoenix. When Lin Feng saw the undying phoenix, he was shocked. When the undying phoenix came out, one of the 9 Emperor avatars that Lin Feng had refined, the Holy Phoenix Emperor avatar, started to fluctuate violently. Lin Feng had obtained the refining method of the 9 Emperor avatars a long time ago. After refining it successfully, he only needed to find the original spirit of the 9 Emperor avatars to awaken them. As he continued to find new original spirits of the 9 Emperor avatars, the 9 Emperor avatars would become more and more powerful. Once the 9 Emperor avatars completed their transformation, their combat strength would soar greatly. The 9 Emperor avatars could bring Lin Feng different abilities. In addition, the 9 Emperor avatars were related to the legendary 9 Emperors painting and the inheritance of the 9 Emperors. The 9 Emperors of the Demon Clan were at the peak of cultivation in the past. One could imagine how powerful the 9 Emperors painting that they had refined together was. Of course, in addition to the 9 Emperors painting, the inheritance of the 9 Emperors was enough to make countless people crazy. It was rumored that the 9 Emperors painting was the #1 Emperor weapon. In fact, this rumor was not accurate because when the 9 Emperors painting was first refined, it was the #1 Emperor weapon. But the key was that the 9 Emperors painting was a treasure with a high growth rate and would continue to evolve. Just like Lin Feng's chaotic ancient lamp, when it was first refined, its level was very low. But now, it was an Emperor weapon. In the future, it might become an immortal weapon or even surpass an immortal weapon. Therefore, it was obvious that the 9 Emperors portrait, which was ranked first right after being refined, would become a terrifying divine weapon in the future. Lin Feng had always hoped to awaken the 9 Emperor avatars as soon as possible because he felt that once all the 9 Emperor avatars were awakened, then perhaps he could get some clues about the 9 Emperors painting or the inheritance of the 9 Emperors. Now, among the 9 Emperor avatars, Lin Feng had awakened the avatar of the Golden Winged Rock, the Qiongqi, the White Tiger, the Heaven-Eyed Demonic Snake, and the Great Radiant Angel. As for the other 4 clones, the Black Tortoise clone, the Taotai clone, the Void Divine Beast clone, and the Undying Phoenix clone had yet to awaken. It had been a while since Lin Feng had seen the original spirit of the 9 Emperors' avatars. But now, Lin Feng actually saw the original soul of the Undying Phoenix. The Undying Phoenix, Nirvana Rebirth, this was an almost heaven-defying ability. This ability was different from Lin Feng's Immortal Bloodline ability. Lin Feng possessed the Undying Bloodline. If he was killed, there was a chance that he would be reborn. This kind of rebirth was an ability obtained by successfully activating the power of one's bloodline the moment one was killed. However, there was a prerequisite for this sort of rebirth. That was one's flesh and soul could not be destroyed by the other party. That was because this was the bloodline rebirth technique. If one's flesh and soul were destroyed, one would be completely dead. Therefore, there was a limit to the immortal bloodline's rebirth. The Nirvana Phoenix was another kind of rebirth. Nirvana meant that a ball of flame would ignite one's body and turn it into nothingness. The Nirvana Phoenix did not rely on flesh and blood to be reborn. Instead, it relied on mental strength to be reborn. In other words, it relied on the power of the soul to be reborn. Flesh and soul were the foundation of the physical body. Mental strength, on the other hand, was the foundation of the soul. You could not have your cake and eat it too. Therefore, the rebirth of the immortal bloodline, and the Nirvana Phoenix, one relied on the bloodline to be reborn, while the other relied on the spirit to be reborn. Both could be reborn, but there was a big difference. Perhaps everything in the world was like this. There would always be flaws. It was impossible to be perfect. However, if Lin Feng mastered the Nirvana Phoenix of the Undying Phoenix, then Lin Feng's rebirth technique would be close to perfection. This was because he could rely on his bloodline to be reborn, and he could also rely on his spirit to be reborn. If Lin Feng's flesh and blood were destroyed by others, he could try to carry out the Nirvana Phoenix. If Lin Feng's soul was destroyed, he could try to use the power of his bloodline to be reborn. Although the 9 Emperor's clones each had their own uses. However, Lin Feng's favorite was actually the Immortal Phoenix's clone. Because the Immortal Phoenix's clone could allow Lin Feng to have a perfect rebirth technique. At the critical moment, this was a means to save his life. Of course, even if he mastered the rebirth technique, he could not rely on it, because the probability of the rebirth technique allowing a person to be reborn was very low. Whether it was the Immortal Bloodline's rebirth technique or the Nirvana Phoenix, the probability of success was not particularly high. If he was killed by others, the probability of dying was much higher than the probability of being reborn. Perhaps he could only be reborn once after dying 100 times. Of course, as his cultivation level increased, his bloodline became more and more powerful, or his cultivation of the Nirvana Phoenix became deeper and deeper. At that time, the success rate might increase a little. Boom, boom, boom. All kinds of powerful magic treasures flew out, wanting to collect the Immortal Phoenix's primordial spirit. This kind of Saint Emperor's primordial spirit was very precious. Even if those cultivators did not cultivate the 9 Emperor's clones, the Saint Emperor's primordial spirit could greatly increase the combat power of those cultivators. Therefore, a treasure like the Phoenix's primordial spirit was absolutely extraordinary. Anyone would go crazy for it. The Phoenix's primordial spirit's cultivation was extraordinary. Its wings flapped in the void and directly shuttled through the void, avoiding the magic treasures one by one. Whoosh! Lin Feng made his move. He wanted to take the initiative to attack. The Phoenix's primordial spirit belonged to him. No one could take it away. Lin Feng's speed was very fast. He quickly came in front of the Phoenix's primordial spirit and opened his big hand. Monstrous magic power surged out and suppressed the Phoenix's primordial spirit, courting death. Many cultivators revealed murderous intent and attacked Lin Feng. One had to know that the cultivators who came here were all very powerful. They were at least at the Saint Emperor level. There were even sovereign lord-level experts. Their attacks were naturally extremely terrifying. Even Lin Feng did not dare to underestimate the attacks of those cultivators. However, Lin Feng did not avoid the attacks of those cultivators. He continued to suppress the Phoenix's primordial spirit. The Phoenix's primordial spirit naturally did not want to be suppressed by Lin Feng. Therefore, it flapped its wings and attacked Lin Feng. The wings of the Phoenix's primordial spirit directly swept towards Lin Feng. However, the attack of the Phoenix's primordial spirit was instantly broken by Lin Feng. After all, it was only a primordial spirit. Lin Feng attacked with all his strength. The Phoenix's primordial spirit could not withstand Lin Feng's attack. The powerful magic power that surged out of Lin Feng's body directly wrapped around the Phoenix's primordial spirit and suppressed it. Then, it was kept in the time-space by Lin Feng. Whoosh! Then, Lin Feng used the heaven patching technique and instantly disappeared from the spot. Chapter 38:59. The void distorted. Lin Feng appeared 30 meters away. He met up with Emperor Julian and the three-headed viper. "Kid, hand over the phoenix primordial spirit. A group of cultivators rushed over, their eyes flashing with coldness. There was no lack of Emperor-level experts among them, glaring at Lin Feng. The phoenix primordial spirit made their hearts pound. However, now the phoenix primordial spirit had been taken by Lin Feng, and these cultivators were naturally unwilling to accept it. Therefore, they wanted to force Lin Feng to hand over the phoenix primordial spirit. Scram! Lin Feng put his hands behind his back and looked at the group of people indifferently. Even the Emperor-level experts were scolded by Lin Feng. This was Lin Feng's confidence. He was fearless. "Kid, what did you say? Kid, do you want to die? Impudent! Who do you think you are? How dare you be so disrespectful to us?" Many cultivators' voices were cold as they looked at Lin Feng eerily. "If you want to die, you can come over. I'll chop off your dog head. Then I'll kick you out," Lin Feng said indifferently. He was extremely arrogant, as if he didn't care about these cultivators at all. Many of them looked gloomy and murderous. They wanted to attack. However, at this moment, Emperor Julian and the three-headed viper emitted a terrifying aura. When the sage emperors felt the terrifying aura from Emperor Julian and the three-headed viper, their expressions changed. Then, the sage emperors looked at the emperor-level experts. If the emperor-level experts didn't attack, they naturally wouldn't dare to. These emperor-level emperors didn't belong to the same faction. Lin Feng saw the emperor-level emperors of Sky Market Island, Devil Beast Mountain Range, and Purgatory Ancient Forest. It was very difficult for them to unite, so it was also very difficult for them to join forces to deal with Lin Feng. Moreover, the strength of Lin Feng's side was also very strong. The Monarch Realm experts looked gloomy and chose not to make a move. Instead, they turned around and walked into the depths of the palace. The Saint Emperors didn't do anything when they saw the Emperor Lords. One by one, they immediately quieted down. He also walked towards the depths. Lin Feng, Emperor Julian, and the three-headed viper didn't stop. They also walked into the palace. The area of the palace was very large, and there was a courtyard in the middle. The upper part of the courtyard was open air. The courtyard was surrounded by long corridors that connected to the palace. The architectural style of the palace was rather innovative. Lin Feng summoned the dragon rabbit. This kind of place was suitable for the little guy to display his skills. The dragon rabbit squeaked and ran quickly in front of him. Lin Feng and the other two followed closely behind Dragon Rabbit. The Dragon Rabbit stopped in front of a room, and Lin Feng pushed the door open. There was a huge cauldron in the room. Isn't this the purple dragon cauldron? When he saw the ancient cauldron, Lin Feng couldn't help but be very surprised. The purple dragon cauldron was a sacred cauldron for alchemy. Although its attack power wasn't strong, it could help with alchemy. Therefore, the purple dragon cauldron was very attractive to cultivators, because most cultivators knew alchemy. When Lin Feng first started cultivating, he also came into contact with alchemy, but a person's energy was limited. As time passed, Lin Feng gradually put aside his alchemy skills. Lin Feng mainly used his energy to study formations. Lin Feng had two cauldrons, the four ferocious cauldrons. It had powerful attack power. The primordial magic cauldron. This cauldron was very special and suitable to be a cage. To imprison some people, the primordial magic cauldron's lid and body were very close. Therefore, once imprisoned by the primordial magic cauldron, it was very difficult to escape. Of course, the four ferocious cauldron and the primordial magic cauldron could also be used as alchemy cauldrons, but they were clearly inferior to the purple dragon cauldron, which was more inclined towards alchemy. When the dragon rabbit saw the purple dragon cauldron, it jumped on top of it and started jumping around. Its little paw pointed at the purple dragon cauldron from time to time, squeaking nonstop, as if telling Lin Feng that there was a treasure inside, and that Lin Feng should quickly collect it. There can't be an immortal pill in the purple dragon cauldron, right? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. He quickly walked towards the purple dragon cauldron. When the dragon rabbit saw Lin Feng walking over, it jumped onto Lin Feng's shoulder and stood there. Lin Feng opened the lid of the purple dragon cauldron. Crackle, crackle! After the lid of the purple dragon cauldron was opened, lightning immediately intertwined. Within the lightning, there was a purple seedling floating in the air. What is this? Lin Feng looked at the purple seedling and couldn't help but look puzzled. A purple sapling. It contained an extraordinary power. Moreover, Lin Feng discovered that the lightning was actually the power of lightning spat out by the purple sapling. Lin Feng frowned. He had never seen such a plant before. It was really strange. What kind of plant was this? Demon Lord, do you recognize this sapling? Lin Feng asked. Yao Jun, on the other hand, stared at the purple sapling shrouded in lightning in bewilderment. He couldn't help but frown and say, "This purple sapling looks very much like the sapling of the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo. However, this kind of vegetation has already disappeared countless years ago. I didn't think that there would be such a plant here." Lin Feng asked, "What's the use of this grand firmament purple lightning bamboo?" The demon lord said, "The grand firmament purple lightning bamboo is one of the 10 most yang plants in the world. In addition, it is a lightning-attributed plant. Therefore, this plant is extremely lethal to yin spirits and ghosts. If it is forged into a supreme treasure, the power of this supreme treasure will be extremely terrifying. Since the lightning-attributed plant is the strongest offensive attribute, and the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo is a supreme treasure, you can imagine how rare a supreme treasure forged from the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo is. Moreover, supreme treasures forged from the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo are the best at restraining yin spirits and ghosts." After hearing the demon lord's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but be slightly moved. Perhaps he could cultivate this sapling and use it to forge a powerful treasure in the future. Lin Feng felt that this method was feasible. Moreover, he really needed to collect more treasures that could restrain yin spirits and ghosts. This way, he could deal with all kinds of yin spirits and ghosts. At this moment, a group of cultivators walked in. This group was actually from the Dragon Palace. Moreover, the leader was the Dragon Palace's 9th prince, Ao Shun. Ao Shun glanced at Lin Feng before looking at the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo sapling in the violet dragon cauldron. After seeing the sapling, Ao Shun smiled. Chapter 3860. As the 9th prince of the Dragon Palace, Ao Shun was an experienced and knowledgeable person. From his expression, he seemed to have recognized the origin of the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo sapling. The high sky purple lightning bamboo was a priceless treasure. Although he couldn't obtain the high sky purple lightning bamboo, even if he could obtain the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo sapling, he would still be able to obtain it. It was a great harvest. Lin Feng naturally felt the greed that Ao Shun had for the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo sapling. Lin Feng ignored the 9th prince and kept the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo sapling and the purple dragon cauldron into the space-time continuum. "Kid, don't you think that we are enemies on a narrow road?" Ao Shun looked at Lin Feng indifferently. That gaze was as if he was looking at an ant. In Ao Shun's eyes, Lin Feng was an ant. From the beginning, Ao Shun had never thought highly of Lin Feng. Enemies on a narrow road. Are you even worthy? Lin Feng curled his lips and said, If you know what's good for you, scram as far as you can. That way, you can still live. Otherwise, no one in this world can save your life. Hearing Lin Feng's words, Ao Shun was stunned. He quickly reacted and sneered, Kid, boasting. You must have the ability to boast. If you don't have the ability, how dare you say such words? Only death awaits you. Why are there so many stupid and ignorant people in this world? Help this young master get rid of these fellows. Lin Feng said impatiently. He had no interest in arguing with Ao Shin. Of course, Lin Feng also had no interest in fighting with Ao Shin and the others. He had the Nine-Eyed Emperor Lord and the Three-Headed Viper Emperor Lord by his side. There was no need for him, the master, to make a move. Yes, master, Emperor Julian and the Three-Headed Viper responded and rushed towards Ao Shin and the others. Now, the Three-Headed Viper's body had shrunk to 1 meter long. Its movements were extremely fast. Boom! A terrifying aura emanated from Emperor Julian and the Three-Headed Viper. After sensing the terrifying aura emanating from Emperor Julian and the Three-Headed Viper's bodies, Ao Shin's face instantly turned ugly. He was naturally able to sense the aura of an Emperor Lord. However, Emperor Julian and the Three-Headed Viper had just called Lin Feng their master. This caused Ao Shin to reveal an expression of disbelief. What kind of terrifying existence was an emperor-level expert? Which force wasn't a high and mighty existence? Was there a need to address someone else as master? It was too unbelievable. Only at this moment did Ao Shin realize that the situation was troublesome. Let's not talk about Lin Feng's cultivation. Even the 2 emperor-level experts by Lin Feng's side were not people they could contend against. This time around, there was also an expert from the Dragon Palace who had sealed himself in a stone that had come out and entered the Demon Emperor's secret realm. However, that expert wasn't here. Only if that expert was here would they be able to contend against the 2 emperor-level experts in front of them. Although Ao Shin was arrogant, he was also an extremely intelligent person. He naturally knew that the most important thing right now was to quickly leave this place. Otherwise, it would be hard to escape this calamity. Stop these 2 for this crown prince, Ao Shin said in a deep voice. He ordered the others to stop the Nine-Eyed Emperor Lord and the Three-Headed Viper while he rushed outside. He wanted to escape without a trace. The rest of the cultivators could sense the terrifying aura emanating from Emperor Julian and the Three-Headed Viper. How could they still dare to contend against Emperor Julian and the Three-Headed Viper? Even if it was Ao Shin's order, it was useless at this moment. Many people tried to escape outside. However, it was already too late for them to escape. The terrifying aura of the 2 emperor-level experts spread out and enveloped the group of cultivators. Bearing the terrifying aura of the emperor-level experts, the group of cultivators felt as if their bodies were fixed in the void. They were simply unable to move. On the other hand, Ao Shin and Emperor Julian started a massacre. Puff, puff, puff. Ripping sounds could be heard one after another. One after another, the holy emperor-level experts were killed. These holy emperors who were killed were all elite experts of the Dragon Palace. Even the Dragon Palace of the Azure Sea did not have many experts of this level. Therefore, every loss of such an expert was a great loss to the Dragon Palace of the Azure Sea. 7 or 8 holy emperor-level experts were all killed by Emperor Julian and the Three-Headed Viper. The Nine-Eyed Emperor Lord quickly arrived in front of Ao Shin and sent a palm strike towards Ao Shin. How could Ao Shin be a match for Emperor Julian? Emperor Julian hit him so hard that he spat out blood. His face was as pale as paper. Emperor Julian grabbed Ao Shin's collar and lifted him up. Then he quickly came to Lin Feng. "Kneel down," Emperor Juyin said coldly and kicked Ao Shen's leg. With a plop, Ao Shen knelt on the ground. "Spare me, young master. I have offended young master. I deserve to die. I only have hope. Young master, please spare my life for the sake of the Dragon Palace of the Azure Sea." Ao Shen begged Lin Feng for mercy. This was a 180-degree change from his arrogant attitude from before. Right now, Ao Shen had already abandoned his so-called dignity, his so-called personality, and so on. Ao Shen only wanted to live. Only to live. Only then would there be hope in life. If he died, it would really be over. Ao Shen did not want to die. He wanted to live. Ao Shen even thought that after he left alive, he would immediately look for the self-proclaimed expert of the Dragon Palace. That expert's strength was too terrifying. He was not someone an ordinary emperor could contend against. By then, when that expert attacked, wouldn't he be able to kill Lin Feng in any way he wanted to kill Lin Feng? Ao Shen's wishful thinking was quite good. However, his wishful thinking was destined to not come true. Lin Feng looked at Ao Shen indifferently and said, "I gave you a chance to live, but you didn't grasp it. Since that's the case, then only death awaits you." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng slapped Ao Shen's head and directly shattered his soul. Ao Shen died on the spot. The three-headed viper devoured Ao Shen and the other experts of the Dragon Palace. After devouring those people, the three-headed viper's strength could quickly increase. Lin Feng naturally hoped that the three-headed viper's cultivation could quickly increase. The stronger the three-headed viper was, the more help it could provide to Lin Feng. Lin Feng and the other two walked outside. At this moment, many cultivators had gathered at the entrance to watch the battle. The 9th prince of the Dragon Palace was killed just like that. This was not a small matter. However, no one dared to provoke Lin Feng. And the other two. Lin Feng's two subordinates were too terrifying. They were actually Emperor Masters. They even brought 2 Emperor Masters with them when they came out to explore the secret realm. How terrifying was Lin Feng's identity? How could he be so generous? Chapter 38:61. However, none of the people present knew Lin Feng. So, Lin Feng's identity was simply a mystery. Everyone watched Lin Feng and the other two leave. After they left, the cultivators suddenly burst into an uproar of discussion. Lin Feng, Emperor Juyin, and the three-headed viper continued to walk inside. The few emperor lords who had arrived at this place had already arrived at the deepest room of this place. That room seemed to be the main hall of this huge palace. Above the door, black gas lingered. It was still a rune condensed by the black gas. It was a very strange rune. The several emperor lords' methods were very shocking. They worked together to break the rune. When Lin Feng and the other two arrived, the rune had just been broken. Rumble. The door was pushed open. Several emperor-level experts entered the palace. After that, the sage emperors also entered. And Lin Feng and the other two also entered the main hall. That is, just as he entered the main hall, Lin Feng saw a shocking scene. A cultivator was nailed to the wall by 5 arrows. 4 of the arrows pierced through the cultivator's limbs. The 5th arrow pierced through the cultivator's forehead. He didn't know how long this cultivator had been killed, but his wounds were still bleeding. Only the blood of some extremely powerful beings or ancient gods would not dry up even after countless years. The existence that had been shot to death might have been such a powerhouse. Look at those 5 arrows. They are all surrounded by a very mysterious golden rune. And that golden rune is very terrifying. Just by feeling the aura emitted by the golden rune, it actually made my heart tremble. A cultivator pointed at the 5 arrows and said, Those 5 arrows were indeed very extraordinary. Lin Feng felt that those 5 arrows might have a great origin. Otherwise, they would not be able to kill such an expert. The storage ring is still, someone continued, looking at the storage ring on the cultivator's finger. That storage ring was very special. There was a divine dragon coiled on it. Could it be the legendary coiling dragon ring? Someone said, thinking of a rumored supreme treasure. Rumor had it that the coiling dragon ring had refined a medium world. This was one of the largest spatial rings known to man. It was unrealistic to think that the coiling dragon ring was so famous only because of its large space. Other than the extremely large space inside the coiling dragon ring, it also had an extremely strong attack power. It was said the dragon coiling on the coiling dragon ring was made from the bones of the holy dragon. In addition to that, it was said that the soul of the holy dragon was also fused into it. Therefore, the coiling dragon ring was a ring that could not only attack power, but also had a large space. The attraction of such a ring was naturally unimaginable to cultivators. God knows how many years ago he should not be a threat. A cultivator said as he walked towards the cultivator, who was nailed to the wall by the 5 arrows. This cultivator knew that the Emperor Lord level experts were hesitant. Therefore, he was definitely going to make the first move. If he could really obtain a fortuitous encounter, then perhaps the fortuitous encounter he obtained would be able to protect him and leave this place. This kind of thing was not uncommon. It was also because of this reason that this cultivator dared to take the risk. Everyone else stood in place and watched the cultivator make his move. If that cultivator succeeded, then there would definitely be many people, including several Emperor-level experts, who would attack that cultivator. If that cultivator failed, everyone would be able to judge the danger level of approaching the corpse. Then, they would consider whether or not to take action. The cultivator was getting closer and closer to the corpse of the expert who had been killed. What surprised everyone was that he did not encounter any danger along the way. Not only did the 5 arrows pierce through the expert's body, but they also seemed to seal all of his aura. The cultivator's face lit up with joy. He sped up and soon arrived in front of the corpse. Then, he reached out to grab the coiling dragon ring. He wanted to remove the coiling dragon ring from the corpse's finger. Roar. But at this moment, a strange scene occurred. The coiling dragon ring actually let out a high-pitched dragon roar. Then, the divine dragon on the coiling dragon ring actually came to life. That divine dragon actually started to swim around the coiling dragon ring. It was extremely strange. A powerful devouring force surged out. That devouring force directly enveloped that cultivator. That cultivator's body actually began to rapidly shrink. Then he flew toward the coiling dragon ring and was finally devoured by the divine dragon coiling on the ring. What a strange ring. As expected, want to take such a treasure? It won't be easy. Many people couldn't help but take a deep breath. Taking the coiling dragon ring was very difficult. It required great strength to suppress the divine dragon coiling on the ring. Look, the coiling dragon ring has turned into a blood-red ring. Someone pointed at the coiling dragon ring and said, everyone looked over and saw that the coiling dragon ring had indeed turned into a blood-red ring. It was truly too strange. Something's not right. The blood-red energy is flowing into the corpse. Lin Feng's expression turned grave. He felt that something was very wrong. Others might not have noticed it, but Lin Feng did. The blood-red energy was like a tonic that was being absorbed by the corpse. Wang. At this moment, a shocking wave of energy emanated from the corpse. Whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, the corpse opened its eyes. It was a pair of empty eyes. When Lin Feng looked into those eyes, he felt as if he had been pulled into a mysterious world. There was a flash of light. The scene changed. He realized that he had arrived at a palace. Within that palace, an endless amount of demonic qi was rumbling. A cultivator was covered in blood, and there were corpses all around him. "Why did you destroy the Grand Orient bloodline?" The cultivator roared. He charged toward the demonic qi, wanting to fight to the death with the existence within. "The Grand Orient bloodline. You deserve to die." The being within the demonic qi said coldly. He took out a huge bow, an arrow, then pulled the bowstring and shot. The arrow flew out and pierced through the cultivator's left wrist. The powerful force sent the cultivator flying. Chapter 38:62. Puff, puff, puff. The being in the endless demonic aura shot out another 3 arrows. The 3 arrows nailed the cultivator's right arm and legs to the wall. "Ah!" The cultivator roared, his voice shaking the heavens. He tried to struggle, but he couldn't break free. "There's no need to struggle. Your fate has long been sealed." The being in the endless demonic aura spoke in a cold voice. "You ungrateful people, you won't have a good ending." He roared angrily, his heart filled with murderous intent, but he couldn't break free from the arrows nailed to his body. Anger and hatred ignited his chest. Puff! Another arrow shot out from the endless demonic aura. This arrow pierced through the cultivator's head. "Is our clan going to be wiped out?" He didn't die immediately. Instead, he murmured. His heart was filled with endless sorrow and hatred. Tears of blood flowed from his eyes. Finally, his aura gradually dissipated. His corpse gradually turned cold. Keek, keek. Sinister laughter rang out from the endless demonic aura. The laughter made one's hair stand on end. The endless demonic aura surged out. It instantly left. The scene in front of him quickly disappeared. Lin Feng reappeared in the great hall in the real world. "I hate it. My clan. We've done so much for the myriad worlds. Why do you have to wipe us out?" The terrifying being roared angrily after being resurrected. Of course, he might not have been resurrected. He might have just become a different kind of living being, a zombie demon, an Een corpse, or some other kind of Een spirit. No matter what he was, one thing was for sure. This being was definitely not human. He struggled even harder. The 5 arrows were no longer able to pin him down. If not for the Ho Yi Bao, how could I have been defeated? The being roared angrily. Lin Feng was shocked. The being in the endless demonic aura had killed the being in front of him with the Ho Yi Bao. The Ho Yi Bao was a supreme treasure forged by Ho Yi. This treasure was also known as the Sun-Shooting Divine Bao. In the past, not only had Ho Yi forged the Ho Yi Bao, he had also forged 10 sun-slaying divine arrows. Back then, Ho Yi had used the Ho Yi Bao and sun-slaying divine arrows to kill Di Jun's 9 sons. One of Di Jun's sons had escaped to the top of the Fusang tree. That was why he managed to escape the calamity. Could those 5 arrows be the legendary sun-shooting divine arrows? Rumor had it that the sun-slaying divine arrow itself was a top-notch immortal artifact. That was why he was able to kill Di Jun's son. If those 5 arrows were the shooting sun god arrows, then their value would be too great. Moreover, its power would definitely be unimaginably terrifying. Suddenly, Lin Feng thought of something. Back then, Ho Yi was killed by the demon emperor Di Jun. In other words, the Ho Yi Bao. It should have fallen into the hands of Di Jun. Could it be that the cultivator who killed the existence in front of him was the demon sovereign, Di Jun? Thinking of this, Lin Feng couldn't help but gasp. Demon Emperor Tai Yi and demon sovereign Di Jun were brothers who had gone through life and death together. The two of them had supported each other since they were young. They had risen together. The two of them had gone through countless life and death situations together before they finally established the heavenly court. Moreover, they had been in charge of the heavenly court for so many years. It was only after Demon Emperor Tai Yi had disappeared that Di Jun was in charge of the heavenly court alone. If the existence in the endless demonic aura was the demon sovereign Di Jun, then it meant that the Eastern Emperor's bloodline hadn't disappeared for no reason. Demon Emperor Tai Yi hadn't disappeared for no reason. In fact, he had been persecuted by the demon sovereign Di Jun. Even the entire Eastern Emperor's bloodline had been annihilated because of this. If it was as he had guessed, then this was really a shocking secret. If the demon race knew about it, would they find Di Jun's grave and then dig out his corpse and whip it? Lin Feng felt that there might be such a possibility. Someone would definitely do that, because if it was as Lin Feng had guessed, then the decline of the demon race was actually caused by the demon sovereign Di Jun. The demon sovereign Di Jun, he was the eternal sinner of the demon race. The mistakes he had made, as well as the crimes of massacring the demon Emperor Tai Yi's bloodline, were too numerous to count. In fact, it could completely cover up his achievements in establishing the heavenly court with the demon Emperor Tai Yi. However, Lin Feng felt that things weren't that simple. From the roar of this existence, Lin Feng felt that it was the demon emperor who had annihilated the Eastern Emperor's bloodline. It wasn't just the demon sovereign Di Jun's bloodline. There might be other forces involved as well. It was no wonder that this existence was filled with hatred. After the establishment of the heavenly court, the myriad worlds entered a relatively peaceful environment. In order to establish the heavenly court, the demon emperor Tai Yi and his people had sacrificed too much. However, their bloodline had been mercilessly wiped out. Anyone in their position would be filled with hatred. Is he the demon emperor Tai Yi? Lin Feng couldn't help muttering to himself. He didn't know if this existence in front of him was the demon emperor Tai Yi. He was too powerful. Lin Feng felt that he might really be the demon emperor Tai Yi. No, if he really is the demon emperor Tai Yi, even the Ho Yibao wouldn't be able to hurt him. He's probably a direct descendant of the demon emperor Tai Yi. He might even be the demon emperor Tai Yi's son. The demon lord said. Lin Feng felt that this was possible, to be able to live in the palace of the demon emperor Tai Yi and to have such a powerful cultivation. Perhaps this cultivator in front of him was the demon emperor Tai Yi's son, right? Ah, he was roaring. He struggled harder and harder. Finally, 5 arrows were forced out of his body. I hate it. I hate it. All of you will die. All of you will die. He was roaring, his killing intent soaring. The 5 arrows pierced through the bodies of the cultivators. Hurry up and run, many people screamed in horror. They didn't have the courage to fight this terrifying existence. This existence was simply too powerful. His combat strength was heaven-defying. Choosing to fight him was simply courting death. The 5 arrows were too fast. They pierced through the void in an instant and arrived in front of the cultivators. Many of the cultivators' expressions changed. They hurriedly took out their magic treasures to block the arrows. However, something shocking happened. The power of the arrows was too terrifying. Any magical treasure would be like a piece of paper under the attack of those arrows. They were pierced through by the arrows. And then the arrows pierced through the chests of the cultivators. The cultivators whose chests were pierced by the arrows died on the spot. Chapter 38:63. This existence was simply too powerful. His combat strength was simply heaven-defying. Especially, he could control 5 arrows at the same time to attack everyone. This was the ability to do 5 things at once. It was truly despairing. Puff, 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 puff. The sound of flesh being pierced rang out one after another. Cultivators were killed one after another. They could not withstand this terrifying existence's attack at all. The power of the 5 arrows was simply too great. Perhaps those 5 arrows were really the divine sunshot arrows? Lin Feng felt that even if the 5 arrows were not the divine sunshot arrows, they must be closely related to the divine sunshot arrows. Otherwise, how could they be so powerful? Get lost! Don't block the way! Lin Feng shouted in a deep voice. He swung his right fist at the cultivators in front of him. Bang! 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 One cultivator after another was sent flying. He, the 3-headed viper, and Emperor Julian quickly rushed outside. The other Emperor-level powerhouses did not dare to stay any longer. They also quickly rushed outside. This existence was too powerful. They could not fight against it. Only by leaving this place could they regain their safety. As for the other cultivators, they continued to die in the hands of this terrifying existence. Soon, the Sage Emperor-level cultivators were all killed. Only a few Emperor-level powerhouses were left. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. More arrows were fired at them. One of the arrows locked onto Lin Feng. The power of that arrow was so terrifying that Lin Feng felt a sense of horror. Other than Lin Feng, the 3-headed viper, Emperor Julian, and 2 other Emperor-level powerhouses were also locked onto by the arrows. As for the 3rd Emperor-level powerhouse, he was even more unlucky. He was actually locked onto by the true body of that terrifying existence. That terrifying existence directly pounced on that Emperor-level powerhouse. Its ferocious aura filled the sky. Facing the attack of the arrow, Lin Feng waved his hand. The Black Heaven Pagoda flew out. It formed a defensive light shield to protect itself. Puff! However, a tearing sound was heard. The arrow! It pierced through the defensive barrier created by the Black Heaven Pagoda. Clearly, just how terrifying was the power of that arrow. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly summoned his ruler's armor to protect himself. At this moment, the arrow was already flying towards him. Clang! The arrow hit Lin Feng's chest. Suddenly, the sound of metal clashing rang out. Although the ruler's armor had blocked the attack of the arrow, the ruler's armor hadn't been able to block it. However, the arrow released a terrifying power. Dozens of bones in Lin Feng's body were broken. The attack power of the arrows was simply too strong. He was so powerful. It was so shocking. Clang! Lin Feng reached out with his right hand and grabbed the arrow. The arrow began to struggle violently. Meanwhile, the other 4 arrows pierced through the bodies of the other 4 monarch masters. The 3-headed viper's head was pierced, while Emperor Julian's chest was pierced. The heads of the other 2 monarch masters were pierced. The attack power of these arrows was too terrifying. There was no way to block it. However, the 4 monarch masters didn't die because of this. The 2 monarch masters whose heads were pierced didn't die. Although their injuries were extremely serious, they were lucky to survive. The Achilles heel of snake-type creatures was usually above the head. But the 3-headed viper was different, perhaps because it was born with 3 heads. The 3-headed viper's neck was bifurcated. Therefore, the 3-headed viper's head was actually a little further back than other snake-type creatures. Therefore, the place where the arrow pierced wasn't the 3-headed viper's head. The 3-headed viper was lucky enough to avoid this disaster. As for Emperor Julian, although her chest was pierced, Emperor Julian was different from others. Many people's Achilles' heel was either the soul or the heart. The soul was the foundation of a person. It was the birthplace of consciousness. The heart was the blood supply center and the source of power. Therefore, if the soul and heart were destroyed, the person would die. However, Emperor Julian's Achilles' heel was her 9 eyes. Moreover, Emperor Julian had 9 hearts. Her 9 hearts didn't grow in her chest. Instead, they grew behind her 9 eyes. Therefore, it was rumored that the 9-eyed clan had 9 lives. To a certain extent, this rumor wasn't baseless. In order to completely kill this clan, all 9 eyes on their body had to be pierced. In fact, it was equivalent to destroying the 9 hearts behind the 9 eyes. The monarch master, who was targeted by the terrifying existence, was in a miserable state. One of his arms was directly torn off. That monarch master let out an incomparably shrill scream. The terrifying existence wanted to kill that monarch master in one go. At this moment, that monarch master's body actually burned and turned into ashes. That terrifying existence was also slightly taken aback. What was going on? Did he commit suicide because he knew he couldn't escape? In the next moment, that cultivator appeared at the door. Obviously, this was an extremely strange escape technique. That cultivator used this to escape. The 3-headed viper, Emperor Julian, and the other 4 monarch masters all fled outside. At this moment, Lin Feng was still grabbing that arrow. This was because the 5 arrows were too extraordinary, and their power was heaven-defying. Lin Feng wanted to collect one of the arrows. One rune after another flew towards the arrow, suppressing the runes. With the suppression of the runes, the arrow's struggle became much weaker. In the end, Lin Feng sealed the arrow and kept it in the space-time space. He continued to flee outside. The 5 monarch masters had already escaped. Lin Feng was delayed for a while because he was sealing the arrow. However, he had already rushed to the door of the palace. He was about to rush out. However, at this moment, that terrifying existence chased after him. From behind, a palm struck towards Lin Feng. "Reckless fool, you even dare to covet my things. You can go to hell." A sinister and terrifying voice came from behind, containing endless killing intent. The terrifying palm's power was simply unimaginable. It was so tyrannical that people couldn't help but be shocked. That palm made Lin Feng feel the threat of death. He couldn't resist at all. This was a dangerous moment. Lin Feng used the heaven patching technique. His body instantly disappeared. The terrifying existence's palm slammed into the air. In the next moment, Lin Feng appeared outside the palace. Chapter 38:64. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel happy when he saw that the terrifying existence couldn't come out. Who set up the golden runes? Lin Feng couldn't help but wonder. The power contained in the golden runes was extremely powerful and shocking. Such power showed how extraordinary those runes were. The other party seemed to have set up these runes for a reason. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel suspicious. However, there were no clues about this. If he relied on his imagination, he naturally wouldn't be able to figure it out. So Lin Feng simply stopped thinking about it. Besides, Lin Feng had sealed an arrow. This time, he had gained a lot. Even though Lin Feng had the feeling that the arrow wasn't a godly shooting sun arrow, he needed to study it to be sure. Of course, even if it wasn't a godly shooting sun arrow, he still needed time to study it. The power of that arrow was also powerful enough. Lin Feng even felt that there was a secret behind it. As for what secret it was, Lin Feng needed to investigate it before he could find out. Dong, dong, dong. Right at this moment, bells rang out one after another. It was the sound of the Dong Huang bell. When they heard the sound of the Dong Huang bell, Lin Feng and the others were shocked. I wonder if Demon Emperor Tai Yi died here as well. Maybe his body is deep inside. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. Although the cultivators in this palace were powerful, they weren't Demon Emperor Tai Yi. Since these people dared to attack the Donghuang bloodline in the past, they must have thought of a way to deal with Demon Emperor Tai Yi. So, Lin Feng felt that, in the past, Demon Emperor Tai Yi was most likely dead. Dong dong dong. The sound of the Donghuang bell rang again. It sounded like a death knell. It was filled with sorrow. Let's go and take a look. Lin Feng said. The three-headed viper, and Emperor Jillian rushed toward the sound. Almost everyone was rushing towards the depths of the forest. In the deepest part of the palace was a huge garden. The garden covered hundreds of acres of land. However, the garden was now lifeless and had lost all signs of life. In the depths of the garden, there was a mountain range lying in the middle of the garden. It was like a huge dragon resting on the ground. It was majestic and heavy. Buzz. At this moment, the Donghuang bell appeared above the mountain range. The Donghuang bell floated above the mountain range, constantly vibrating with the sound of a funeral bell. This was Lin Feng's first time seeing the Donghuang bell. Previously, he had seen some descriptions of the Donghuang bell. However, after all, those descriptions were not the real Donghuang bell. Therefore, the shock it brought was far from being comparable to the shock it brought now. The Donghuang bell was golden in color, and it was covered with runes. Furthermore, there were 99 golden dragons drawn on the Donghuang bell. Those divine dragons were so lifelike that they looked like real divine dragons lying on top of the Donghuang bell. This was the supreme treasure that Demon Emperor Tai Yi, one of the greatest existences in the history of the demon clan, had spent his entire life forging. The Donghuang bell is Demon Emperor Tai Yi's natal treasure. Now that the Donghuang bell has appeared here, could it be? Could Demon Emperor Tai Yi have fallen in the depths of the mountain range? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. It was indeed very likely. Lin Feng wasn't the only one who thought of this. Many cultivators seemed to have thought of this as well, and they all flew towards the depths of the mountain range. The Donghuang bell rang. The reverberating divine sound was filled with sorrow. Many people were affected by it, and they felt very depressed. The Donghuang bell seemed to be lamenting the annihilation of the Donghuang bloodline and sighing, dong, 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 dong. The Donghuang bell rang again, this time with a deeper tone. Many people couldn't help but cry. They could feel the sorrow of the Donghuang bell. Oh my God, look! What is that? Someone exclaimed, then pointed towards the depths of the mountain range. Everyone looked towards the depths of the mountain range, and there was a huge pit there. In the deep pit, there were countless skeletons. Many of the skeletons were separated from each other. Are they from the Donghuang bloodline? Many people's voices trembled. It was a pit filled with tens of thousands of people. Countless skeletons were piled up here. Too many people had been killed here. One could only imagine how tragic it had been back then. So many people were buried here. It was truly heartless. The Donghuang bloodline was so powerful. Who was it that wiped them out? Someone asked, puzzled. They didn't know who had wiped out the Donghuang bloodline. How powerful was this bloodline back then? Naturally, there were very few people who knew the truth, and Lin Feng happened to be one of them. Why do you care so much? The most important thing now is to snatch the Donghuang bell, a cultivator said with a cold smile. They didn't care about how the Donghuang bloodline had died. They were only interested in the Donghuang bell. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. One by one, the emperor-level experts flew towards the Eastern Emperor bell, wanting to snatch it away. Lin Feng even saw many familiar faces such as Patriarch Black Tortoise, Great Dream Sovereign Lord, and others. Even Sovereign Lord White Eagle was there. Besides, Dragon Palace of the Azure Sea, Siren Tribe, 5 great ancient forests, Sky Ruin Island, and the top powerhouses among the wandering cultivators. There was even a group of powerhouses from the Sacred War Alliance. The Sacred War Alliance's West Ox State was adjacent to the Azure Sea. Therefore, the Sacred War Alliance was aware of what had happened in the Azure Sea realm. Therefore, Lin Feng wasn't surprised to see the powerhouses from the Sacred War Alliance. The Sacred War Alliance didn't seem to have any sovereign lords. However, the royal family of the Sacred War Alliance had a very strong foundation. This time, the Sacred War Alliance had sent out a strong foundation. Those terrifying powerhouses who had sealed themselves in the stone materials had come out. Just as these top powerhouses were flying towards the Donghuang Bell, wanting to snatch it away, suddenly, the space beside the Donghuang Bell twisted, and in the next moment, a cultivator stepped out. It was a young cultivator who seemed to be very skilled in the Tao of space. Therefore, he traveled through space and arrived in front of the Donghuang Bell. The young cultivator put away the Donghuang Bell, and his lips curled into a proud smile. Everyone, it seems like the Donghuang Bell is not fated with you. In that case, this Donghuang Bell, I'll take it, the young cultivator said with a smile. He was in high spirits. You're courting death. You're courting death. The group of sovereign lords all had murderous looks in their eyes. Boom, boom, boom. Chapter 38:65. However, the young cultivator remained calm in the face of the emperor's attacks. The space around him began to distort more and more. Lin Feng and the others even saw the space around him begin to fold. This was a powerful ability that could only be displayed when one's understanding of the Tao of space had reached an extremely deep level. When the divine abilities of the Emperor Lord level cultivators arrived in front of the young cultivator, the Emperor Lord level cultivators were stunned. Those divine abilities were all devoured by the folded space in front of the young cultivator. What a powerful technique! Lin Feng, who was watching the battle from afar, couldn't help but be shocked. Lin Feng's use of the Tao of space was also quite profound. However, compared to this young cultivator, he was still lacking by quite a bit. Lin Feng felt that the Tao of space he had mastered was somewhat similar to this young cultivator's Tao of space. Lin Feng couldn't help but wonder if this young cultivator had also mastered the Tao of space passed down by the space god. The 9 generations of the space god were of the same origin, but they were also different. If Lin Feng could obtain the empty space god's legacy, other people could also obtain the empty space god's legacy. This cultivator's cultivation was also not weak. He should be an extremely heaven-defying existence who could challenge those of a higher level. Of course, the real reason he dared to snatch the Donghuang Bell in front of so many emperors was his understanding and use of the Tao of space. Who are you? An emperor realm expert looked coldly at the young cultivator and asked for his identity. My identity? Is it something you have the right to know? The young cultivator curled his lips and said, arrogantly, he didn't take the emperors who asked him seriously at all. This guy is even more arrogant than me. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. There were indeed too many arrogant people in the world. However, arrogance required the strength to back it up. Otherwise, it would be a tragedy. As for the young cultivator, he was clearly very confident in his strength. Junior, how dare you? Die! The Emperor Lord, who was humiliated, couldn't help but roar angrily and send a palm strike towards the young cultivator. That Emperor Master was the #1 expert of the vast ocean realm's itinerant cultivator world. He was transformed from a deep-sea black whale. He was incomparably powerful. After he struck out with his palm, a huge energy palm that blotted out the sky condensed in the void. The energy palm grabbed at the young cultivator. However, when the energy palm flew to the young cultivator's side, the young cultivator was stunned. The energy palm was instantly devoured by the distorted space around the young cultivator. The distorted space seemed to be able to devour all attacks. Everyone felt that it was inconceivable because that young cultivator was simply too extraordinary. At such a young age, his usage of the space Tao had already reached such a profound level. It was truly inconceivable. This young master doesn't have the time to continue playing with you. That young man glanced at everyone with disdain. There were so many sovereign emperors, yet they were nothing in his eyes. So many emperor-level experts had become his targets of disdain. The group of sovereign emperors were naturally extremely angry. Everyone took out their powerful magic treasures and attacked that young cultivator. Now, that young cultivator had already aroused the anger of everyone. If they let him escape, then these sovereign emperors would definitely become a laughing stock. When the magic treasures shot towards the young cultivator was shocked. Something shocking happened. The space around that cultivator was folding more and more. Originally, the space around that cultivator had only folded 8 layers. However, now the number of layers was increasing. Not long after, there were more than 40 to 50 layers. The most shocking thing was that even after so many layers had been folded, the space was still folding. Those folded spaces blocked the attacks of the expert's magic treasures. As for that young cultivator, his body was becoming more and more blurry. This guy's comprehension of the space Tao has already reached such a profound level. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. He couldn't help but admire that young cultivator. That young cultivator seemed to only have a lifespan of 1,500 to 600 years. In the world of cultivators, that was naturally an extremely young age. However, his comprehension of the space Tao had already reached such an unfathomable level. This was a height that many people, even if they obtained the inheritance of the space god, couldn't reach in their entire lives. For that young man to be able to reach such a height was enough to show how strong his comprehension was. Everyone, I hope that the next time we meet, you won't be as weak as you are now. Before that young man's body disappeared, he didn't forget to mock those sovereign emperors who attacked him. Some of the sovereign emperors almost vomited blood. Really, that was too much. However, no matter how depressed they felt, these Emperor-Lord level cultivators could only keep this depression in their hearts because they really couldn't do anything to that young man. The Donghuang bell is going to be taken by him. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. The Donghuang bell was too precious. Naturally, Lin Feng also wanted to get the Donghuang bell. However, from the looks of it, Lin Feng felt that he might just miss the opportunity to get the Donghuang bell. If there were no accidents, the Donghuang bell would probably be taken by that young cultivator. Just as that young cultivator was about to disappear completely, everyone saw that. An ancient tree flew out from the void. Then it smashed into the distorted space. That ancient tree was a treasure made of an unknown material. There were countless mysterious runes circling around it. It was obviously an extremely powerful treasure. Bang! The ancient tree smashed into the folded space. What happened next shocked everyone. When the ancient tree smashed into the folded space, everyone saw that the folded space had actually shattered. One had to know that the folded space was extremely terrifying. So many experts' Dharma treasures couldn't destroy the folded space. However, The ancient tree destroyed the folded space with just a light strike. It was truly unimaginable. The folded space shattered, and that cultivator's body returned to the real world. Die! The group of Emperor Realm experts all laughed sinisterly as they attacked the young cultivator with their powerful magic weapons. No, the young cultivator screamed in horror. He wanted to escape, but it was too late. When the magic treasures of the Emperor Lord level experts landed on the young cultivator's body, the young cultivator's body directly exploded. Chapter 38:66. Damn, such a powerful cultivator. And he died. Just like that. Lin Feng was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe his eyes. That cultivator was someone who gathered the fortune of heaven and earth. Such a person was extremely rare, and such a person would usually have monstrous luck. It was very difficult to kill them. In addition, such people usually had some heaven-defying methods. Therefore, they often had unimaginable fortuitous encounters. They themselves might have risen to the top by cheating all the way. The ability displayed by this young cultivator fit all the characteristics. This person was even toying with a group of Emperor-level experts. Those Emperor-level experts were almost angered to death, but they couldn't do anything to that young cultivator. Such an ability was indeed heaven-defying. However, who would have thought that the end result would be like this? That young master died, tragically in the end. It really made people sigh. Of course, it could also be said that that guy was too pretentious. It would be fine if he pretended to be pretentious, but that guy was endless, especially in front of a group of Emperor-level experts. It was fine if he pretended to be pretentious, took the treasure, and ran away, but he kept on showing off in front of a group of Emperor-level experts. That guy was killed by a group of Emperor-level experts. It seemed like he deserved it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, a group of cultivators flew directly toward the storage ring left behind by that young cultivator. Just then, the Donghuang bell was kept in the storage ring by that young cultivator. That young cultivator was so extraordinary. He must be someone who had many fortuitous encounters. There must be many precious treasures in the storage ring. Therefore, everyone was very interested in that young cultivator's storage ring. They wanted to snatch that storage ring. However, at this moment, the storage ring suddenly shook the void. Then, a bang was heard. The storage ring was instantly destroyed. The Donghuang bell flew out from the storage ring. The Donghuang bell changed. The divine dragons on the Donghuang bell seemed to have awakened from their slumber. The divine dragons circled around the Donghuang bell and let out loud dragon roars. The dragon roars resounded through the clouds and shook the heavens. It was a very terrifying sound wave attack. The Emperor-level experts near the Donghuang bell couldn't help but turn pale. Retreat. Many people turned pale and quickly retreated. The Donghuang bell was too scary. It hurt their souls. At this moment, a strange sound came from the Eastern Emperor bell. If one listened carefully, one would realize that the sound was calling for the undead to awaken. The skeletons in the mass grave began to move. Every skeleton contained a power that could destroy the heavens and the earth. My God, those skeletons are coming back to life. Many people's faces turned pale with fright. The sight of the numerous skeletons coming back to life was simply too horrifying. I hate them. I really hate them. Why are the other races treating us like this? How many sacrifices have we, the Eastern Emperor, made for the common people of the world? How much effort? Why do they want to destroy the Donghuang? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. The people of the Donghuang bloodline have died too miserably. They deserve to die. Everyone deserves to die. All the traitors deserve to die. The skeletons let out angry roars, their hatred overflowing to the sky. However, no one could blame them. In the past, the Donghuang bloodline had done too many things for the heavens. However, the Donghuang bloodline was mercilessly wiped out. Emperor Jun's bloodline was naturally one of the leaders. However, it was clear that there were many other major forces involved in this matter. Logically speaking, these major forces shouldn't have taken the risk to destroy the Donghuang bloodline, right? Why did they want to destroy the Donghuang bloodline? The world was bustling with activity. Everyone was here for benefits. Lin Feng felt that there must be some benefits involved in this matter. That was why these major forces had gone crazy and destroyed the Donghuang bloodline. Let's go. We have to leave the Demon Emperor's secret realm. Lin Feng looked at the three-headed viper and Emperor Juyan. During this trip, Lin Feng's cultivation had improved greatly. He had also obtained the fiery divine tree, the violet dragon cauldron, the grand firmament purple lightning bamboo sapling, the mysterious arrow, and other treasures. This was enough for him. Lin Feng had always been a person who knew when to advance and when to retreat. He, the three-headed viper, and Emperor Juyan quickly rushed out. Many people didn't dare to stay and quickly rushed out. The skeletons in the mass grave came back to life. The skeletons' roars shook the sky as they quickly chased after the crowd. A terrifying aura emanated from the skeleton's army, causing one's heart to tremble. I don't see Demon Emperor Tai's corpse. Could it be that Demon Emperor Tai's corpse has been destroyed? Or perhaps Demon Emperor Tai didn't die in the Donghuang city? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. However, it was destined that no one would be able to answer his doubts. The skeleton's army was extremely terrifying. Some of the cultivators were caught up by the skeletons. Those cultivators fought with the skeleton's army and were quickly killed by the skeleton's army. When they passed by the palace where the mysterious existence was imprisoned, a large number of skeletons rushed towards the palace. They wanted to destroy the palace and release the cultivator, who was suspected to be Demon Emperor Tai's son. When Lin Feng and the others rushed out of the palace, they were immediately attacked by the undead army. The Lord of the Undead had brought the undead army in at some point. The densely packed undead army charged over, making it difficult for them to move. Many people were trapped. Lin Feng took out the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram and led the three-headed viper and Emperor Juyan out of the encirclement. In the end, they rushed out of the Donghuang city. Lin Feng didn't leave immediately. He lingered in the distance to see if there was a chance to collect the Donghuang bell. Go find the Bai sisters. After finding the Bai sisters, you will bring them back to the dark ancient forest. Then you will integrate the forces in the dark ancient forest and try your best to rope in more experts. Lin Feng looked at Emperor Juyan and said, "Now, Lin Feng already had the heart to fight for hegemony. Back then, the myriad races almost destroyed the 9 provinces. And now, Lin Feng planned to establish his own forces in the myriad races' lair and make the myriad races of the Sacred War Alliance unable to sleep or eat in peace. If there was a chance to encroach on the myriad races of the Sacred War Alliance, Lin Feng didn't mind encroaching on them. Yes, Master, Chapter 3867. Lin Feng and the three-headed viper remained where they were, waiting. Lin Feng let the viper enter the temporal space for the time being. If he summoned the viper during the battle, he might be able to catch his opponent off guard. One after another, some cultivators escaped from the East Imperial Kingdom. Their cultivation bases were definitely extremely terrifying. Sage emperors had a lower chance of escaping, while emperor-level experts had a higher chance of escaping. Roar, a high-pitched dragon roar, resounded through the clouds. Within the East Imperial Kingdom, endless golden light illuminated the world. Within the dazzling golden light, 99 divine dragons appeared. Around the necks of the 99 divine dragons was a chain condensed from golden light. 99 divine dragons pulled an ancient bell and flew out. A female cultivator was fleeing in front of them in a sorry state. That female cultivator was none other than the Great Dream Empress. This woman's means were extremely terrifying. Now, she was being chased by the 99 dragons dragging the East Imperial Bell. Lin Feng realized the 99 dragons were actually the divine dragons branded on the East Imperial Bell. The 99 dragons dragged the East Imperial Bell across the sky and finally caught up to the Great Dream Empress. For some unknown reason, the Eastern Emperor Bell seemed to want to kill the Great Dream Emperor Lord. This woman was a powerful character with terrifying means. She wasn't someone ordinary Emperor-level cultivators could deal with. However, this woman had a hard time resisting the East Imperial Bell's attack. Now, the 99 divine dragons branded on the East Imperial Bell were resurrected. The 99 divine dragons were incomparably powerful and connected with the East Imperial Bell. All 99 divine dragons spewed out powerful dragon breaths at the Great Dream Empress. The Great Dream Empress summoned a Milky Way world to block the dragon breaths. However, the combined dragon breaths of the 99 divine dragons were so terrifying that they destroyed the Milky Way world. Then, the powerful dragon breaths bombarded the Great Dream Empress body. The Great Dream Empress was sent flying. Wah! Great Dream Emperor Lord spat out a mouthful of blood, his face as pale as paper. Lin Feng was shocked. The 99 mystical dragons were terrifying. Even a powerful existence like the Great Dream Monarch Lord was injured so severely. Could the Great Dream Monarch Lord have died under the attacks of the 99 mystical dragons? The 99 divine dragons let out a series of dragon roars and continued to spit out powerful dragon breaths to attack the Great Dream Monarch Lord. They wanted to kill him. At this moment, the Great Dream Emperor Lord's body turned into a rainbow butterfly. The rainbow butterfly tore open the void and quickly escaped into the void. Meanwhile, the attacks of the 99 divine dragons ultimately dissipated into thin air. Is that the Great Dream Emperor Lord's true body? A rainbow-colored butterfly? Lin Feng's face showed an extremely shocked expression. Previously, Lin Feng had also guessed what the Great Dream Emperor Lord's true body was. He had also heard of the Great Dream Emperor Lord's true body. However, Lin Feng now knew that the rumors outside were extremely inaccurate. The Great Dream Emperor Lord's true body was an extremely rare rainbow butterfly. It was Lin Feng's first time seeing such a rainbow butterfly. The 99 divine dragons did not chase after the Great Dream Emperor Lord. Endless golden light converged as the 99 divine dragons flew towards the Donghuang Bell. When they arrived beside the Donghuang Bell, the 99 divine dragons turned into 99 divine dragon runes and imprinted themselves on the Donghuang Bell. The Donghuang Bell then flew towards the Donghuang city. Swoosh! At this time, the void tore open, and Lin Feng stepped out from the void. He appeared above the Donghuang Bell. With a flash of light, Lin Feng took out the heaven-devouring jar. A powerful devouring force surged out from the jar. The devouring force enveloped the Donghuang Bell. It wanted to collect the Donghuang Bell. Lin Feng's heaven-devouring jar could suppress many magic treasures and forcibly collect them. Now that Lin Feng had finally found an opportunity to collect the Donghuang Bell, he naturally would not let go of this golden opportunity. Of course, it was not an easy task to collect the Donghuang bell. The Donghuang bell shook the void. Waves of terrifying energy were released from the Donghuang bell. The devouring force from the heaven-devouring jar was about to be dispersed by the Donghuang bell. Seeing this, Lin Feng's face suddenly changed. If the devouring force from the heaven-devouring jar was dispersed by the Donghuang bell, then it would be impossible to collect the Donghuang bell. Suppress. Lin Feng raised his right hand, and the spiritual power on his palm intertwined to form the word suppress. The word suppress was imprinted on the Donghuang bell. Lin Feng wanted to use the word suppress to suppress the Donghuang bell. However, the Donghuang bell was unwilling to be suppressed by Lin Feng. The 99 divine dragons circled around the Donghuang bell and let out dragon roars. The 99 divine dragons seemed to want to soar into the sky and transform into giant dragons. Lin Feng finally knew why the Great Dream Emperor Lord was chased by the Donghuang bell. The Great Dream Emperor Lord probably wanted to collect the Donghuang bell, but was counterattacked by the Donghuang bell. Once the 99 divine dragons on the Donghuang bell transformed into their divine dragon true forms, they were too powerful. Lin Feng had already seen how terrifying the 99 divine dragons were. Therefore, it was impossible for him to transform the 99 divine dragons into their divine dragon true forms. If that was the case, it would be troublesome. Lin Feng quickly performed the 8 seals of prohibition. He sealed the 99 divine dragons. Dense runes intertwined and wrapped around the Donghuang bell. The 99 divine dragons struggled violently. Lin Feng was about to seal the 99 divine dragons in one go when a cultivator stepped out from the void. At that moment, a cultivator appeared in the sky. He was holding a gigantic tree and threw it at Lin Feng. The ancient tree was the one that had broken the folded space. The young cultivator, who was proficient in the Tao of space, had died tragically because of this person. Lin Feng was extremely shocked when he saw the cultivator, who had suddenly appeared. This cultivator was none other than Huangfu Qingtian. Lin Feng was surprised. He hadn't thought he would meet Huangfu Qingtian there. Huangfu Qingtian was Lin Feng's first great enemy. This person's means were heaven-defying, and his combat strength was extremely terrifying. After coming back from the dead, Huangfu Qingtian's luck was still very strong. Lin Feng threw a punch at the ancient tree that Huangfu Qingtian was smashing at him. Bang. Chapter 38:68. This is a supreme treasure I got from the primitive secret realm. How is its power? Huangfu Qingtian looked at Lin Feng with a smile. The primitive secret realm was a secret realm left behind by the primeval Lord of Heaven, who was the incarnation of Pangu. Therefore, the later generations were used to calling the secret realm left behind by Pangu the Pangu secret realm. Huangfu Qingtian controlled the secret realm of ether, but he didn't enter the primitive secret realm. Pangu, the celestial master of Origin's most powerful inheritances, were in the Origin mysterious land. Lin Feng hoped he could go there and steal Huangfu Qingtian's treasures, but now it seemed like he wouldn't have that opportunity. What kind of material is this supreme treasure made of? Lin Feng squinted his eyes and looked at the ancient tree. It was so extraordinary and terrifying that even Lin Feng felt it was unbelievable. You can ask the king of hell. Huangfu Qingtian sneered. He stood in the void and waved the ancient tree. An invisible and intangible strength emerged from Lin Feng's body and exploded around him. The invisible power was so terrifying that it bombarded Lin Feng. Lin Feng was sent flying several times. What a powerful supreme treasure. Lin Feng took a deep breath and took out 3 stone swords. Under his control, The 3 stone swords quickly slashed at Huang Fu Qingtian. "It's useless," Huang Fu Qingtian sneered, and continued to wave the ancient tree in his hand. The ancient tree folded the surrounding space. When the space was folded, the folded space blocked the attack of the 3 stone swords. The ancient tree was really a strange magic treasure. It was Lin Feng's first time seeing a magic treasure with such powerful attack and defense. It made Lin Feng very envious. Lin Feng stepped forward in the void. He sneered at Huang Fu Qingtian and said, "Huang Fu Qingtian, the current you're not the original you. You're just a soul body created from your past memories. Although your talent and luck are still very strong, the compatibility between your soul and body is far from what it used to be. I was able to kill you before. Do you think that you can challenge me with your current strength? How ridiculous." Huang Fu Qingtian sneered and said, "I've taken the spirit fusion pill, so my soul won't have any conflict with my body. So, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed this time. As for the matter of me being killed by you, do you have the nerve to bring it up? I should be the one who killed you. You plotted against me. You used despicable and shameless methods to turn defeat into victory. Yet you still have the nerve to brag about it." That battle in the past. In the world of cultivators, only the results mattered, not the process. Lin Feng sneered and said, "I destroyed your soul openly with a soul secret technique. That's the truth. How can you say I plotted against you? Cultivators need to cultivate their bodies, divine abilities, and many soul secret techniques. But you can't see through that. That's why you're doomed. No matter how many times you challenge me, you'll fail in the end." Lin Feng began to recite an incantation. In the great Tao of destiny, a dead person stole the heavenly will, went against the heavenly Tao, and stole life again. "Today, I'll punish this person who should be dead." Lin Feng finished reciting the incantation. In an instant, a river of destiny appeared. The river of destiny shot toward Huang Fu Qingtian. "Humph, Lin Feng, you've gotten used to everything over the years. That's why you're so arrogant now. Today, I'll show you what I'm capable of. I'll trample you beneath my feet and let you know that you're nothing but a weak and pitiful worm in front of me." Huang Fu Qingtian sneered. Then an extremely terrifying aura emanated from his body. He activated the ancient tree with all his strength and smashed it toward the river of destiny. Bang! The river of destiny collided with the ancient tree in Huang Fu Qingtian's hand, and something shocking happened. That ancient tree was actually able to block the attack of the river of fate. It was truly inconceivable. At that moment, the Donghuang bell shattered the seal that Lin Feng had placed on it. Then, the Donghuang bell rapidly grew in size, and soon it was as big as a mountain. The Donghuang bell was truly unpredictable. Its power was heaven-defying. A powerful devouring force surged out of the enlarged Donghuang bell. The devouring force enveloped Lin Feng and Huang Fu Qingtian. The powerful devouring force wanted to suck Lin Feng and Huang Fu Qingtian into it. Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. He began to struggle, trying to break free from the devouring force of the Donghuang bell. However, the devouring force of the Donghuang bell was far beyond Lin Feng's imagination. He couldn't break free from it. Huang Fu Qingtian, on the other hand, waved the ancient tree and kept whipping away the devouring power that was surging over. However, the ancient tree couldn't break free from the devouring force. Lin Feng and Huang Fu Qingtian's bodies involuntarily flew toward the Donghuang bell quickly. "Damn it, we're in trouble." Lin Feng's expression suddenly darkened. He didn't know what would happen if he was devoured by the Donghuang Bell. Lin Feng knew that the situation was terrible, but he couldn't break free from the devouring force of the Donghuang Bell. In the end, Lin Feng and Huang Fuqingtian were both devoured by the Donghuang Bell. However, Lin Feng didn't sense Huang Fuqingtian's aura. He and Huang Fuqingtian seemed to be separated by the Donghuang Bell. Lin Feng was trapped inside the Donghuang Bell. It was pitch black, and he couldn't see anything. However, Lin Feng was someone who had been through a lot. Even though he was trapped inside the Donghuang Bell, he still tried his best to stay calm. At this moment, a strange force spread out and wrapped around Lin Feng. Then, Lin Feng felt that the force began to pour into his body. The force was very strange. It was trying to dissolve Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng's expression darkened slightly. He knew that it was the refining force that was pouring out from the Donghuang Bell. The Donghuang Bell wanted to refine him. Lin Feng quickly operated the Archean dragonesque elephant skill. He wanted to dissolve the force that was pouring into his body. However, the Archean dragonesque elephant skill couldn't dissolve the strange force. To think that the power of refinement is so strange. Yi Fuqian murmured. Chapter 38:69. When Lin Feng started to circulate his blood, he realized that he couldn't rely on the strength of his blood to suppress the strange strength in his body. This made Lin Feng frown. If even his bloodline power was unable to suppress this strange energy, it would be troublesome. Bloodline power was something that Lin Feng relied heavily on. This strange energy made Lin Feng feel that it was very troublesome. But now, Lin Feng was facing a problem. Since his bloodline power was unable to resolve this strange energy, he needed to find a new way to resolve it. Lin Feng thought of the heavenly fire. The power of the 5 heavenly fire was extremely terrifying. Would it be able to refine this strange energy within his body? Lin Feng began to activate the 5 heavenly fire. Soon, the 5 heavenly fire were activated by Lin Feng. Lin Feng's body was filled with the power of the heavenly fire. The 5 heavenly fire engulfed his body and enveloped the strange energy. The heavenly fire was indeed worthy of its name. When the heavenly fire in Lin Feng's body enveloped the strange energy that Lin Feng was unable to refine before started to burn. Not long after, the strange energy that had invaded Lin Feng's body was burned to ashes by the heavenly fire. Lin Feng could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Then he took out a luminous pearl. The luminous pearl illuminated the surroundings. Lin Feng saw that he was surrounded by golden rock walls. He was trapped in an independent space. It was like a golden secret chamber. How can I break the Donghuang Bell? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He wanted to break the Donghuang Bell and get out. Lin Feng stood up and came to a rock wall. He activated the 6-fold Dracophant arm. Lin Feng punched one of the walls of the cave. Bang, 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 bang. He threw out punch after punch. Every punch was powerful and heavy. Its power was astonishing. 36 consecutive punches landed on the rock wall, but he was unable to break it open. There wasn't even a single crack on the wall. It's too hard. It couldn't be broken. I wonder if I can blast open this wall with a magic treasure? Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. He took out his Dharma treasure. They began to bombard the rock wall. Bang, bang, bang. After Lin Feng brought out more than a dozen magical weapons, they continuously bombarded the rock wall. However, the magical weapons were unable to break the rock wall. The rock walls were simply too sturdy. He didn't know what material it was made of. Lin Feng put away his Dharma treasure. He felt that if he wanted to get out, he needed to be smart and not rely on brute force. Lin Feng carefully examined the rock walls. These rock walls were densely covered with runes. Lin Feng discovered that some of the runes were twisting and turning. They were connected together like a huge dragon. A dragon tattoo? Lin Feng frowned. He continued to look for similar runes. Soon, Lin Feng found a second similar dragon tattoo. However, it was slightly different from the first one. The structure of the second dragon tattoo was slightly more complicated than the first one. Lin Feng began to look for these runes on the rock wall. In the end, Lin Feng found 99 of these runes. This made Lin Feng think of the 99 divine dragon portraits imprinted on the Donghuang bell. Those divine dragons could transform into real divine dragons and were extremely powerful. He wondered if these divine dragon tattoos were related to the 99 divine dragon portraits. Lin Feng decided to comprehend them first before doing anything. He sat cross-legged and carefully sensed the 99 dragon tattoos. However, the 99 dragon tattoos rejected Lin Feng violently. Therefore, he was unable to communicate with the 99 dragon tattoos. This made Lin Feng rather depressed. Lin Feng suddenly thought of the ancestral dragon fist that he cultivated. No matter what, it was still an ultimate technique passed down by the ancestral dragon. Lin Feng began to circulate the ancestral dragon fist and formed a great formation in his dantian. After the great deployment spell formed by the ancestor dragon fist was activated, Lin Feng immediately sensed that the 99 dragon marks, which had been repelling him, didn't repel him anymore. On the contrary, they felt close to him. This made Lin Feng happy. It seemed that the ancestral dragon fist had worked. Roar! Lin Feng heard a dragon's roar. Then, he felt that he had arrived in a mysterious world. In this world, huge golden divine dragons were flying in the sky. There were a total of 99 golden divine dragons. The 99 golden divine dragons circled around Lin Feng. The golden divine dragons suddenly turned into dragon tattoos. Then, they quickly flew towards Lin Feng and disappeared into Lin Feng's mind. The dragon tattoos formed a chant in Lin Feng's mind. Lin Feng's divine consciousness invaded the chant. 99 dragons pulling the ancient bell. Lin Feng saw the name of the chant. This was a great ability that was imprinted inside the Donghuang bell. Lin Feng began to cultivate this great ability according to the cultivation method of the great ability. No one knew how much time had passed. Lin Feng finally cultivated this powerful great ability. He began to circulate this great ability. Suddenly, the roar of a dragon resounded through the sky. Divine dragons appeared one after another. Lin Feng actually condensed a total of 99 divine dragons. The 99 divine dragons circled around Lin Feng. They roared continuously. Lin Feng looked at the 99 divine dragons and couldn't help but feel happy. He had finally summoned 99 divine dragons. However, wasn't this great ability called the 99 dragons pulling the ancient bell? What about the ancient bell? Could it be that this place was too small and couldn't be used, so the ancient bell simply didn't appear? Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. He didn't know what was going on. Through the 99 divine dragons that he condensed, Lin Feng discovered that he seemed to be able to form a mysterious connection with the 99 divine dragons imprinted on the Donghuang bell. Could it be that I can rely on the connection with the 99 divine dragons to escape? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He continued to try to connect with the 99 divine dragons. The 99 divine dragons circling around Lin Feng instantly merged into the surrounding rock walls. Then Lin Feng felt a powerful force wrap around his body. In the next moment, with a flash of light, Lin Feng was thrown out by the powerful force. When Lin Feng came out, he found himself in a huge hall. The Dong Huang bell was floating not far away. "I'm finally out." Lin Feng couldn't help but let out a long breath. However, in the next moment, Lin Feng's face completely froze, because he realized the Dong Huang bell wasn't the only thing in this hall.